Chapter 395. I got these cheaply. Senior brother Wolf Fong, do as you see fit. Yunjioge said. She had Zishang's demonic power restriction on her, which was much better than this defensive magic artifact. Furthermore, she still had the demonic cauldron. Although it wasn't of much use now, it could still be used to block at a critical moment. These two defensive Dharma artifacts are both high grade. If I were to sell them in the shop, they would be sold for at least 700 spirit stones each. I only have 1,200 spirit stones now. Can I use my contribution points to exchange for the rest? Wolf Fong's slightly tanned face was a little red. He had gotten a great bargain this time. Such a good defensive magic artifact couldn't be bought with money. Alright, no problem. Yunjioge wasn't here to earn money. However, she was still a little emotional. Senior brother Wolf Fong was already a foundation establishment cultivator. Why was he still so poor that he couldn't even gather spirit stones? Yunjioge misunderstood Wolf Fong. For cultivators who were still using spirit jades to exchange, Wolf Fong's 1,000 spirit stones were already very rich. However, cultivation costs were high. Wolf Fong, who only focused on cultivation to increase his martial strength, had no other income other than doing hard work. Naturally, his days would be hard. Wolf Fong didn't know what Yunjioge was thinking. He took out spirit stones and happily exchanged the two magic artifacts. Then he said excitedly, "When I enter the Fiend Corpse Mystic Realm, I'll have money after killing more Fiend Corpses." Although the Fiend Corpse Mystic Realm had risks, the benefits were very obvious. This was because killing Fiend Corpses would give a type of baleful bead that was not inferior to spirit stones. It could be used for cultivation or sold to others. Of course, the sect wouldn't send disciples in for free. Every disciple had to give a certain number of baleful beads to the sect when they came out of the mystic realm. If they couldn't complete the mission, not only would they be heavily punished by the sect, the mountain they were at would also have to compensate the sect for their losses. Elder Whitebones was a very practical person. Between revenge and benefits, benefits were more important. Alright, then I wish senior brother Wolf Fong success and wealth rolling in. Alright, are you familiar with senior sister Zhou Xian? Yunjioge had never seen this Zhou Xian before and didn't know what was going on. You don't have to worry about senior sister Yu. Unless Bailon can take out huge benefits, she won't bother. Wolf Fong was in a good mood after buying the magic artifact, so he gave a lot of information. For example, Zhou Xian was a money grubber and Mo Jingyuan was gay. Thank you, senior brother Wolf Fong. When Yunjioge heard what Wolf Fong said, he felt confident. It's just a small matter. It's getting late, so I'll be taking my leave first. Wolf Fong was in a hurry to hand in his mission. He cupped his fists at Yunjioge and left. Yunjioge had also returned to his cave abode and happened to bump into Little Fatty, who had come to deliver the name list. The 5 devil sects were the Black Fiend sect, the Thousand Ghost sect, the Joyous Union sect, the Een Corpse sect, and the Soul Devourer sect. Each of them sent 8 people, and they were all elite disciples at the foundation establishment stage. However, what surprised Yunjioge was that there was no Wanli Mingxian or Yi Rui in the Black Fiend sect. It was normal for Yi Rui not to go, but Wanli Mingxuan's previous attitude was that he was determined to win, so how could he not go? Yunjioge sent a message to Wanli Mingxian, but he received an apologetic reply. He said that something had happened at home, so he had given up his spot to someone else. He didn't say what exactly happened, and Yunjioge didn't ask. Other than the 5 demonic sects and evil sects, there were also a few small sects and aristocratic families. Among them, the words Zhongzhou caught her eye. Yisha, this name sounds familiar. Have you seen her before? Yunjioge turned and asked Zishang. Zishang's memory was much better than Yunjioge's. He recalled the people he'd seen in the ruins and had an answer. There's a foundation establishment girl standing next to Old Lady Sure. I think she's called Yusha. If people from Zhongzhou are also going to the Fiend Corp's secret realm, then I'll have to consider using the demonic tripod in case the news gets leaked. Yunjioge felt that it was better to be cautious. That's okay. I heard that the last treasure map is indeed in the Fiend Corp's secret realm. If we want to get it, we have to collect bloody murderous beads. Zishang hadn't been idle during this time. He made a few puppets and placed them on enemy peak to eavesdrop. As expected, he heard an important piece of information. Wait, aren't bloody murderous beads medicinal materials? What does it have to do with the treasure map? Yunjioge remembered that the 3rd antidote for the 9-bone shatter required this bloody murderous bead. The last treasure map is hidden in a place that requires bloody murderous beads to find. But I don't know the specifics. Zhishang shook his head. Chosun had told Jin Yanwei through a secret technique. If they wanted to know, they had to search his soul. Then how do we get the bloody murderous beads? Yun Jioge was more concerned about this. Kill until the flying corpses appear. Zhishang's voice was filled with murderous intent. The ranks in the fiend corpse secret realm were clear. From high to low they were flying corpses, golden corpses, silver corpses, bronze corpses and iron corpses. As long as they went on a killing spree they would attract flying corpses. Flying corpses were equivalent to golden core cultivators. They were much stronger than human golden core cultivators, comparable to mid-stage golden core cultivators. Bloody murderous beads were equivalent to their golden core cultivators. It wouldn't be easy to get them. So powerful. Can you deal with them? Yun Jioge was a bit worried. A mid-stage golden core flying corpse was terrifying. It's a bit difficult. I might need your demonic tripod. Only Foundation establishment cultivators were allowed to enter the fiend corpse secret realm. After Zhishang entered, his cultivation would be suppressed. He could only use early-stage golden core power. He would need external items to kill flying corpses. It's fine. Chosun is determined to get this treasure map. He should have a way. We'll just follow behind him and pick up the loot. Yun Jioge had Zhishang, but she knew too little about the fiend corpse secret realm. She wasn't prepared enough either. He had to think of another way. There are too many variables. You have to rely on yourself. Don't worry, I'll definitely help you get the bloody murderous bead. Zhishang was determined to get the bloody murderous bead. Yun Jioge knew that Zhishang was helping her detoxify the poison. She couldn't help but feel depressed about her broken body. There are still 4 months. Hurry up and cultivate. Zhishang carried Yun Jioge and threw her on the bed. Then he started cultivating. In the following days, Yun Jioge and Zhishang spent most of their time on the bed. They did all kinds of positions. Finally, they reached Qi refinement stage 12. Still a bit lacking. Yun Jioge felt it was a pity that she couldn't enter Foundation establishment in one go. Looks like you didn't sleep enough. Zhishang patted Yun Jioge's head. He decided that after they left the Fiend Corp's secret realm, he would definitely go into seclusion and sleep until she reached Foundation establishment. Yun Jioge agreed. Just then Jin Chuan's cold voice came from outside the cave. Junior brother Yunjio, the sect leader, has gathered us in the main hall. We're going to the Fiend Corpse Valley. I almost forgot. Today is the day we leave. He was so focused on cultivating that he forgot about such an important matter. It's not too late to go now. Zhishang still remembered. You won't be invisible this time, right? Yun Jioge asked. The 3 elders were all in the main hall. Invisibility was useless to them. They might think that he was provoking them. Yes. Although Zhishang was no longer invisible, there was a layer of yin qi on his face. He looked very gloomy. Yun Jioge was very satisfied with Zhishang's current appearance. Beauty was good for him to see. Why was there a need to show off to others? Chapter 396. When Yun Jioge and Jin Chuan arrived at the main hall, the 3 elders had already arrived with the disciples of the various peaks. Seeing Yun Jioge bring Zhishang in, Elder Mo Hua sneered, his eyes filled with hatred, still bearing a grudge for what happened before. Elder Whitebone was expressionless. He had found a good spirit bone some time ago, so he did not care about Yun Jioge's profound Yin Whitebone monkey anymore. Chosun stood in the middle, lost in thought, not even casting a glance at him. Yun Jioge secretly sized up his short figure, thinking that an adult man only had the body of a 5-year-old unable to do anything. How pitiful. Fortunately, Chosun did not see Yun Jioge's sympathetic gaze. Otherwise he would have definitely flipped out. Junior brother Yunjio, you're here. Si Yue, who was standing behind Chosun, greeted with a smile. Yun Jioge smiled and nodded, not replying. Jin Yanwei glanced at her and ignored her. Wolf Fong, on the other hand, did not look sideways. Beside him was a round-faced senior sister. She had a golden abacus in her hand and no one knew what she was planning. The corners of her mouth curled up and she smiled like a miser. It was Yuzian. Junior brother, long time no see. Congratulations on advancing. Bai Lan also greeted Yun Jioge, and even secretly winked at her as if she was very familiar with her. Beside her stood a tall and beautiful young man. It was Emo Jingyuan of the Ink Flower Mountain. He was wearing a red robe embroidered with gold patterns, and his fingers were playing with the black hair on his chest. A pair of slanted eyes flew up and down, carefully sweeping a glance at Yunjioge. Probably because he did not like her weak appearance, he turned to Zhixiang. Unfortunately, Zhixiang's body was covered in a hazy yin qi, and he could not see anything clearly. He retracted his gaze in boredom, and then rolled around on Wolf Fang's tall and strong body, as if he wanted to strip him naked and touch him to his heart's content. Yunjioge was suddenly enlightened. No wonder Wolf Fang knew that Mo Jingyuan had a habit of cutting sleeves. Junior brother Yunjio this way. Jin Chuan brought Yunjioge to the sect Master Mountain. Although they were not on good terms with Yunjioge, they were still disciples of the sect Master Mountain, so they had to stand together at this time. Senior brother, will the sect master come today? Yunjioge asked softly. Of course. Just as Jin Chuan finished speaking, a man walked out from the back of the hall. The last time Yunjioge saw the sect master was when he was being pursued by Mo Hua and the other elders. At that time he had only seen the sect master's back. This was the first time he had seen the sect master's face. Who would have thought that the sect master's face would be covered by a layer of black fog, making it impossible to see his face clearly? Yunjioge was incomparably depressed. He had heard from Little Fatty that the sect master used to be very generous and would always show his face to others. Why was he acting so mysteriously recently? This time, the Fiend Corp's secret territory will be led by Elder Cho. Senator, take your tokens and enter the secret territory to kill as many Fiend Corpses as possible. The sect master was not a talkative person. After giving a few words, he threw out a few streaks of gray light that flew into everyone's hands. Yunjioge caught the gray light and found that it was a palm-sized circular token with a ferocious-looking black Fiend Corpse carved on it. It was the token to enter the Fiend Corp's secret realm. Let's go. Chosun gave the order and walked out of the hall first. The Fiend Corp's secret realm was 3,000 miles away from the Yin Corp's sect. If it was a normal flying artifact, it would take at least 2 days. However, this time they were entering with the 5 great sects, so they definitely could not lose face for the sect. Therefore, the sect master very generously lent the sect's flying artifact. This was a ferocious-looking black flying ship. There were several cannon holes on the ship's body. Not only was it extremely fast, but its attack power was also shocking. Yunjioge boarded the flying ship and found a quiet corner at the back of the ship to sit down. He closed his eyes and rested. The others also found a place to rest. No one spoke. Only Bailan rolled her eyes and walked towards Yunjioge with a faint smile, looking like she wanted to befriend him. It was Yunjioge who did not want to deal with her, so he secretly transmitted to Zhixiang, "Don't let her bother me." All right. Zhixiang agreed. Bailan walked in front of Yunjioge and was about to speak when her vision blurred. She was actually thrown to the bow of the ship by Zhixiang, almost hitting Jin Yanwei. Senior sister Bai, can't you be a little quieter? My master has been in a bad mood recently. It will not be good to anger him. Jin Yanwei had always disliked Bailan's hypocrisy. His tone was also very bad. Sorry. Bailan repeatedly apologized. This time the leader was Elder Cho. Senator. There was no benefit in going against Jin Yanwei. Therefore, although Bailan was depressed, she did not dare to say anything to explain. All right. Find a place to sit. Jin Yanwei waved his hand and sent her away. After Bailan left with an apologetic smile, she glared hatefully at Yunjioge. Yunjioge did not open his eyes from beginning to end. He looked like he did not know what had happened. Bailan's hatred grew deeper. She could not help but think, I'll let you be happy. Wait until we enter the Fiend Corp's secret realm. Thinking of the treasure that Master had given her, Bailan became proud. Originally, she wanted to rope in Yunjioge with a few words to make her lower her guard. It seemed like there was no need to waste time. The black warship flew for a day and a night before arriving at the Fiend Corp's Valley the next morning. At this time, the Fiend Corp's Valley was still empty. The people from the Yin Corp's sect were the first to arrive. Master told everyone to go down and act freely. When the disciples of the other 4 sects arrive, we will enter the Fiend Corp's Valley together. After Jin Yanwei conveyed the instructions on behalf of his master, he eagerly went to serve his master. Cue followed beside Chosun in a flattering manner. Yunjioge stepped on his evil blade and landed on the empty Fiend Corp's Valley. As usual, he found the most remote corner and sat down. This time Bai Lan had learned her lesson and did not come over to chat. Jin Chuan had a stern face as if no one was allowed to approach him. Yu Xian held a golden abacus in the corner and made a papa sound. Her face was in high spirits. Wolf Fong stood on a large rock not far from Yun Jioga. Emo Jingyuan was chatting and laughing beside him. His pair of slanted eyes flew around, constantly throwing flirtatious glances at Wolf Fong. Wolf Fong looked like he was having a hard time enduring, but Emo Jingyuan's cultivation was higher than his, so he could only continue to endure. Fortunately, after the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, a ray of light flashed in the sky. Following that, a light belt formed by pink peach blossom petals appeared. The leader was a female cultivator at the early Oris core stage dressed in a peach blossom palace dress. She was incomparably beautiful, and there was a peach blossom embroidery on her forehead. She was the elder of the Joyous Union sect, the Peach Blossom Fairy. Behind her stood 6 women and 2 men. The women were exceptionally beautiful, enchanting and charming. The man was tall and handsome, but his eyebrows carried an exaggerated aura. Emo Jingyuan glanced at the male disciples of the Joyous Union sect. He was obviously not interested and continued to pester Wolf Fong. Big Brother Cho, long time no see. The Peach Blossom Fairy kept her flying magic tool and gracefully walked towards Cho Senator. Her pair of limpid eyes looked at Cho Sin with deep emotion, as if there was a story between them. Chapter 397. Cho Sin looked up at the Peach Blossom Fairy and replied, "Long time no see. Brother Cho, after so many years you are still so cold. Do you really not understand my feelings?" The Peach Blossom Fairy was sad. Her pitiful look could make any normal man feel guilty and heartbroken. They would want to pull her into their arms and comfort her. Unfortunately, Cho Sin was not a normal man. His face darkened and he directly said, "I don't understand and I don't want to understand." After that he closed his eyes and rested. The Peach Blossom Fairy looked very sad, but she did not dare to disturb Cho Sin, so she left with grievance. The elders of the 2 sects were at loggerheads, and the disciples did not dare to communicate with each other. Bai Lan originally wanted to strike up a conversation with the 2 male disciples, but seeing Elder Cho Sen's attitude, she immediately dispelled the idea. The entire Fiend Corpse Valley was filled with an awkward atmosphere. Fortunately, the Soul Devourer sect's people also arrived at the Fiend Corpse Valley on a white bone flying ship. The leading Golden Core Elder was 7 feet tall and had a dignified appearance. He held a skull in his hand, and when he saw Cho Sin and the Peach Blossom Fairy, he laughed and said, "You 2 came so early. Did you make an appointment beforehand?" Big Brother Zhou Hua really likes to joke. The Peach Blossom Fairy glared at Zhou Hua and said sadly, "I wanted to ask Brother Cho out but he ignored me. Cho Sin, it's not that I want to criticize you, but the curse on your body can be solved as long as you dual cultivate with the Peach Blossom girl. Why are you unwilling?" Zhou Hua shook his head and sighed. It seemed that he was quite familiar with Cho Sr. "Shut up." Cho Sin glared at Zhou Hua, then closed his eyes and went back to meditating. It was obvious that he didn't want to talk to him. See, what a bad temper. Zhou Hua seemed to be familiar with Cho Sen's temper. He shook his head and didn't say anything more. He just chatted with the Peach Blossom Fairy about other things. The soul-devouring sect's disciples were also made up of 5 men and 5 women. Although they were not as outstanding as the Joyous Union sect's disciples, they were all good with words and could call anyone their brother. Bai Lan and the soul-devouring sect disciples chatted enthusiastically, and the Joyful Union sect disciples could not bear the loneliness and quickly joined in. The atmosphere finally became lively. No one knew what they were talking about, but from time to time, someone would sneak a few glances at Yun Jioga. After all, Yun Jioga was the only Qi refinement disciple here. Even if he had perfected Qi refinement, there was still a huge gap between him and the foundation establishment stage. Yun Jioga, on the other hand, was calm and let them size him up. Not long after, the disciples of the Wangai sect also came over on a broken ghost ship. The leading Jindan stage elder was wearing a black robe and looked gloomy. After getting off the boat, he nodded at Zhou Hua and Peach Blossom Fairy and then disappeared. Where did he go? Yun Jioga could not help but send a voice transmission to Zishang. "He went into the shadows," Zishang replied lazily. The Wangai sect cultivated ghost energy and hated sunlight the most. The other disciples also hid in the shadows. 4 of the 5 great sects had already come, leaving only the Black Fiend sect. After a while, there was a sudden commotion in the surroundings. Many disciples looked at the sky and exclaimed in surprise. Yunjioga also looked up and saw a long black shadow swimming over from the blue sky that seemed to have been washed by water. When it got closer, she realized that it was actually a black flood dragon that was more than 200 feet long that was cooked with evil energy. The scales on the flood dragon's body were vivid and lifelike. Its 2 lantern-like red eyes shone with a ferocious light. Its huge body covered the sun in the sky, casting a dark shadow that made everyone feel suffocated. The flood dragon slowly landed on the empty ground next to them, and many people came down one after another. Other than the elders and disciples of the Black Fiend sect, there were also many elite disciples from other small sects and small aristocratic families. Yunjioga did not see Yi Rui and Wanli Mingxian in the Black Fiend sect. She retracted her gaze in disappointment. She knew that they would not come, but she still had some hope in her heart. Now it was completely shattered. At this moment, Zhang secretly sent a voice transmission to her. The woman in pink under the tree on the left is Yu Sha. Yunjioga looked in the direction that Zhang pointed and saw a pink-clothed girl with a spirit snake bun under a locust tree. She saw that the girl had white teeth and red lips. Her facial features were exquisite, and there was a black mole on her left cheek. Probably feeling Yunjioga's gaze, she suddenly turned and smiled at Yunjioga. The 2 little dimples on her face were even more charming, and her eyes were like autumn water. Slowly they were filled with curiosity towards Yunjioga. Yunjioga silently moved her gaze away, determined to stay away from her. Zhang, on the other hand, narrowed his eyes and looked at Yu Sha up and down a few times, but he did not say anything to Yunjioga. At this point, the 5 devil sects had gathered in the Fiend Corpse Valley. The Golden Core cultivators of each sect gathered together to discuss the steps to open the Fiend Corpse secret realm. The yang energy is the strongest now, let's open it now. Chosun was very anxious. He did not want to wait another 15 minutes. Then let's open it. Peach Blossom Fairy immediately agreed. Zhou Hua had no objections and the other elders did not say anything more. Chosun led the other 4 Golden Core cultivators to the cave entrance of the Fiend Corpse Valley. Then he took out a black iron piece that was half a meter tall from his storage pouch and placed it on the ground. The other elders also took out the same iron piece and put it together. In the end, they pieced together the shape of a black fiend corpse. It was extremely similar to the token that Yunjioga had obtained. The 5 elders simultaneously injected spirit energy into the iron piece. The fiend corpse immediately exploded with a dazzling light. Then it slowly stood up from the ground. Its hands pulled left and right in the air, making a tearing motion. Suddenly, a small black dot appeared in the air. Then it quickly expanded into a door. The door was blurry and no one could see what was inside. "Disciples, hurry up and enter the valley," Zhou Hua shouted. The disciples of the 5 sects had already lined up. When they heard this, they immediately stepped onto their flying artifacts and flew neatly into the tunnel. The first to enter was Joyous Union sect, followed by Yin Corpse sect. Yunjioga was the first to step on his evil blade and fly in. Then Bailon and the others flew in one after another. After Si Yue entered, Peach Blossom Fairy prepared to close the cave entrance and interact with Cho Senator. However, she did not expect Chosun to suddenly transform into a black light and rush into the Fiend Corpse secret realm. "Big Brother Cho?" Peach Blossom Fairy almost flew in as well, but Zhou Hua stopped her. "You didn't suppress your cultivation. Do you want to be torn apart by the space?" "But Brother Cho..." Peach Blossom Fairy was so anxious that she was about to cry. "Chosun never does things that he is not confident in. You don't have to worry about him." Although Zhou Hua said this, he felt very strange. There was nothing special in this Fiend Corpse secret realm other than the Fiend Pearl. It was indeed unbelievable that Chosun was willing to suppress his cultivation to enter. At this time, Yunjioga had just entered the Fiend Corpse secret realm. He was holding his evil blade and looking around, afraid that the fiend corpses would suddenly attack. Wolf Fong, Bailon and the others who followed him in were also of the same realm. When everyone was present, Yunjioga was about to say something when he saw a small figure fly in from the cave entrance. When it landed, it actually turned into Cho Senator. The disciples were all shocked. Bailon couldn't help but exclaim, "Elder Chosun, why are you here?" Chapter 398. Is that something you should be asking? Chosun looked at Bai Lan expressionlessly. This disciple deserves to die, please forgive her, elder. Bai Lan immediately knelt and begged for mercy, cold sweat pouring down her back. No one else dared to make a sound, only Siyue pleaded for Bai Lan. Elder, senior apprentice Sister Bai did not do it on purpose, please spare her this time. Chosun snorted coldly, then turned to look to the east, lost in thought. Siyue hurriedly motioned for Bai Lan to get up. Bai Lan gave her a grateful look, then silently shrunk to the side. Although she was happy to have escaped, when she thought of Master's death order, she began to have a headache. How could she kill Yun Jioge under Elder Chosun's eyes, then bring that 1,000-year zombie to Master? It seemed that she would have to rely on senior apprentice brother Mo Jingyuan. Bai Lan could not help but look at Mo Jingyuan, but found that he was smiling, his eyes only focused on the wolf Fong, not even looking at her. Damn, although Bai Lan knew that senior apprentice brother Mo was gay, this was the first time she had seen him so infatuated with a man. What was so good about this wolf Fong? Bai Lan was annoyed, but she could only comfort herself that senior apprentice brother Mo was not infatuated with Yun Jioge, otherwise things would be difficult. Yun Jioge did not notice Bai Lan's complicated gaze. He was a little annoyed. She had planned to sneak away with Zhi Xiang after entering the Fiend Corp's secret realm, but she did not expect Chosun to come in, so it was impossible to leave. What's there to be annoyed about? Didn't you already guess that Chosun would come in? Zhi Xiang transmitted to Yun Jioge. I was just guessing, who knew that he would really come in. Golden Core cultivators valued their lives, suppressing their cultivation to enter this damned place. What if they were accidentally killed by other sects? Chosun was too desperate. Since you're already here, just sneak away when you have the chance. Zhi Xiang comforted. Yun Jioge calmed herself down and observed the surroundings, looking for a sneak route. She saw a gray wasteland in the distance. The clouds in the sky were a strange black and red, and the air was filled with the pungent smell of blood. The smell stinks. Yun Jioge frowned. She didn't know why, but as soon as she smelled the pungent smell of blood, she felt irritated and her blood rushed to her head. She quickly swallowed a tranquil pill. We're going to be in trouble. Zhi Xiang raised his head and looked at the thick black clouds above him with a solemn expression. What kind of trouble? Yun Jioge asked curiously. Remember to run faster later, Zhi Xiang replied cleverly. Yun Jioge quickly understood what he meant. The black and red clouds in the sky suddenly rolled and sticky black and red raindrops fell one after another. They carried an incomparably fishy smell and had a strong corrosive effect. Wolf Fong and the others began to emit protective barriers of various colors. A faint purple mist also appeared around Yun Jioge's body, isolating him from the rain. Chosun released a monster monkey corpse that could resist the baleful aura. Elder, this rain is too heavy. Why don't we find a place to take shelter? Siyue cautiously suggested. Their defensive artifacts had limited spiritual power, and they would be easily worn out after being exposed to the diabolical rain for a long time. Let's go. Chosun directed the monstrous monkey corpse to the east. Yun Jioge and the others silently followed behind him. Bai Lan stared at Yun Jioge's back and began to think if she could use this sudden black rain to deal with Yun Jioge, but she quickly gave up on that idea. After walking for an hour, she still couldn't find a place to hide. Her protective barrier couldn't hold on much longer. She didn't think that the first one to break would be the middle stage foundation establishment Mo Jingyuan. Junior brother Wolf Fong, my protective barrier is broken, please take me in. Mo Jingyuan came to Wolf Fong's side, his charming eyes were like silk, and his beautiful face was filled with a flattering smile. His defensive artifact wasn't strong enough, so it had been destroyed. His fiery red robe was damaged and there were several red spots on his white arms, making him look very pitiful. Wolf Fong coldly looked at Mo Jingyuan. He didn't believe that Mo Jingyuan, a middle-stage foundation establishment cultivator, wouldn't be prepared for entering the Fiend Corp's secret realm for the second time. It was clear that he was just finding an excuse to harass him. Junior brother Wolf Fong, no matter what, we're still fellow disciples. Do you have the heart to watch me die? Mo Jingyuan looked like he was about to cry. For a man to act so pitiful, it was actually not ugly and was actually quite seductive. If senior brother wants to find someone to help, you should go find senior sister Bai Lan. Wolf Fong finally spoke. They weren't from the same mountain, so they weren't familiar at all. Isn't it improper for men and women to touch each other? Imo Jingyuan said, feeling wronged. Wolf Fong was speechless. Who in the entire Yin Corp sect didn't know that you liked men? Although his protective barrier could cover one more person, he didn't want Imo Jingyuan to take advantage of him. Junior brother Wolf Fong, if you're not willing, then forget it. Why push it to me? Although Bai Lan was unhappy that Imo Jingyuan was pestering Wolf Fong, she was even more unhappy that Wolf Fong was using her as a shield. Junior brother Wolf Fong, I'm just staying here for a while. When the fiend corpses appear, I'll leave. I'm not staying here for nothing. How about 100 baleful pearls as compensation? Imo Jingyuan pestered Wolf Fong, using all kinds of temptations. Wolf Fong was annoyed to no end. Thinking that earning 100 baleful pearls wasn't bad, he finally agreed and opened the protective barrier a bit. Imo Jingyuan immediately went in happily. Then he placed a hand on Wolf Fong's waist and stuck close to him, using the excuse of saving spiritual energy. Wolf Fong had a tall and straight figure. He was a bit taller than Imo Jingyuan and was also stronger. He was filled with a manly aura. But on Imo Jingyuan's side, he was filled with a domineering aura, as if this man belonged to him. Bai Lan's teeth itched seeing this. She wanted to use this move on Yunjioga, but seeing the Yin corpse next to her, she immediately gave up on that idea. Yunjioga was looking at the scene of a man chasing another man with interest. Seeing the veins popping out on Wolf Fong's forehead, she couldn't help feeling happy in her heart. According to what she knew, evil sects and demonic sects also had male and female Dao companions. Is it that funny? Zishang glanced at Yunjioga. I think senior brother Imo doesn't have time to bother me anymore. Yunjioga saw that Imo Jingyuan was quite interested in Wolf Fong. His eyes were glued to him. Anyone who came close would be stared to death by him. Even if they come, I'm not afraid. Zishang really didn't place a middle-stage foundation establishment cultivator in his eyes. It's good to save some trouble. Yunjioga quite admired Imo Jingyuan's tenacity. Wolf Fong was very independent. It wasn't easy to take him down. Zishang didn't care. He just looked into the distance and said, "Be careful, trouble is coming." Yunjioga immediately turned solemn. He looked into the distance and saw countless shadows walking over shakily in the hazy black rain surrounding them. Chapter 399. When the shadows came closer, Yunjioga finally saw what they looked like. They looked like humans, but their bodies were gray and their eyes were blood red. Smelling the scent of humans, their speed became very fast and they instantly arrived in front of Yunjioga. They were low-level fiend corpses. Kill. Chosun did not say anything else and released 2 monster monkey Yin corpses to kill them. Jin Yanwei and Siyue stood on either side of Chosun and Jin Chuan was not far from Siyue. Bai Lan released her bone spikes. Yuzian released her white bone abacus. Wolf Fong unceremoniously kicked Imo Jingyuan out of the barrier and then released his evil weapon bone spikes. They turned into several blood-red lights that shot at the fiend corpses. Imo Jingyuan did not get angry. His tattered red Taoist robes instantly recovered. Then he formed a hand seal and a pitch-black bone dragon flew out from his storage pouch. Yunjioga looked at the pitch-black bone dragon and his heart skipped a beat. It looked like the Black Fiend sect's flying artifact. But the Black Fiend sect was made of fiend chi and Imo Jingyuan's was made of all kinds of spirit bones that were soaked in black medicine. He probably wanted to show off in front of Wolf Fong. The bone dragon flew like it was cutting grass, killing several rows of fiend corpses, much faster than Wolf Fong. He even accidentally stole Wolf Fong's target, making Wolf Fong's face turn even darker with anger. It was really interesting for a man to have a partner. Yunjioga smiled as he released 5 evil blades, killing a row of fiend corpses with a slight twist. This brat's attainments in Yin spirit runes are not bad. Zishang killed the fiend corpses while talking to Yunjioga. Senior apprentice brother Imo is also a Yin spirit master. No wonder Jin Yanwei did not say anything when he was causing trouble for Wolf Fong. He really was bullying the weak and afraid of the strong. It felt like Wolf Fong had found a good backer. Don't just kill, you have to take the fiend bead too. Zishang pointed at the fiend corpse's head. Yunjioga used the evil blades to dig and a pure white bead the size of a thumb appeared, releasing a gentle glow. Master, good stuff, good stuff. The little baby's voice suddenly sounded in Yunjioga's mind. What, you want to eat it? If the little baby could change his taste, Yunjioga would feel much more relaxed. It's not me who wants to eat it, it's the bamboo that wants to eat it. The little adorable baby was taking care of his beloved grass soul seed by the stream. The bamboo suddenly emitted a violent fluctuation, and the desire surged towards him as if it was about to go crazy. All right then, give it a few to try. Yunjioga threw the baleful bead into the demonic tripod when no one was paying attention. The little baby eagerly piled up all the baleful beads around the bamboo and kept urging Yunjioga to kill more. This was exactly what Yunjioga was thinking. The spiritual energy contained in this baleful bead was comparable to a spirit stone. Killing it would be a profit. In the blink of an eye, Yunjioga and Zhou had killed more than 500 fiend corpses and thrown all the baleful pearls into the demonic tripod. Although the others did not kill as many as the two of them, they still killed 200 to 300 of them. However, as far as the eye could see, the fiendish corpses were still attacking them. Do you think Zhou Xian is trying to lure the flying corpses here? Yunjioga asked Zhou secretly. They had just entered the mystic realm, and before they could figure out what was going on, they had already attracted flying corpses. It felt very dangerous. It's very possible. If it was him, he would have chosen to finish the battle quickly. If that's the case, then we should stay further away. Yunjioga really cherished his life. Zhou Xian was suppressing his cultivation. Even if he brought many monster monkey-eaten corpses, they still wouldn't be a match for the flying corpses. In this chaotic battle, they would easily become cannon fodder, so it was better to run further away. Zhou Xian didn't say a word from beginning to end. He just kept ordering the monster monkey-eaten corpses to kill. Those fiend corpses were like wheat being cut down in batches. The sticky black and red rain continued to fall, and everyone's protective barrier began to weaken. But seeing how serious Elder Zhou Xian was, no one dared to make a sound. They could only continue to kill. Just like this, Yunjioga killed another 500. At this time, a black shadow suddenly jumped out of the group of fiend corpses and flew like lightning at Yunjioga. Yunjioga made a hand seal and the evil blade flew over to cut the black shadow's neck, but it made a clanging sound. Although the black shadow wasn't killed, it slowed down and gradually revealed its face. It was a fiend corpse with a faint black glow. Iron corpse. Mo Jingyuan recognized this fiend corpse and immediately had the bone dragon come over to help, tightly wrapping around the iron corpse. Yunjioga used this chance to merge with the evil blade and cut off the iron corpse's head with a single slash. Mo Jingyuan took out a bone spur to cut open the fiend corpse's head, taking out an infernal bead the size of a thumb. Senior apprentice brother Mo, why is this iron corpse's infernal bead no different from the other fiend corpses? Yunjioga was a bit disappointed. She thought that the iron corpse's infernal bead would be a bit stronger. This is not an iron corpse. Mo Jingyuan said with a serious expression. If it's not an iron corpse, then what is it? Although Yunjioga had never been to the fiend corpse secret realm, she had heard of the iron corpse's appearance. It was black like this. The iron corpse's infernal bead is black. This is just a normal infernal bead. Mo Jingyuan shook his head. Then he looked up at the sky and said, moreover, this infernal rain fell too early and for too long. The last time Mo Jingyuan entered the fiend corpse secret realm. After killing the normal fiend corpses, it began to rain. When the rain stopped, the iron corpse appeared. After killing the iron corpse, it began to rain again. When the rain stopped, the bronze corpses appeared. The cycle was very regular. But this time it started with the infernal rain. The stench of the infernal rain was very unpleasant. It was nauseating and disgusting. And this ordinary fiend corpse that looked like an iron corpse. Its infernal bead was white, but its killing power was comparable to the iron corpse. If these ordinary fiend corpses were as strong as the iron corpse, then it would be really troublesome. Since senior apprentice brother already noticed something was wrong, why didn't you say so earlier? Bai Lan scolded hatefully. If senior apprentice brother Mo was more serious and didn't place all his attention on Wolf Fong, they would not have been so passive. How would I dare to speak without confirming the situation? Will you take responsibility if something happens? Mo Jingyuan raised his eyebrows and glared at Bai Lan. This team had Elder Zhou Senator. He did not want to find trouble with them. If it wasn't for the fact that the situation was getting worse, he would not even want to speak up. There must be something wrong when something is out of the ordinary. Elder, shouldn't we take our time to think about it? Wolf Fong thought of the human-faced Peach King that appeared in the small secret realm. At that time more than 1,000 disciples almost died there. That's right, Elder, we should be a bit more cautious. Siyue was also a bit nervous. Zhou Xian looked at the increasingly thick red and black clouds in the sky and the never-ending infernal rain. He also felt that something was wrong. Jingyuan, do you have any good suggestions? Zhou Xian was not a person who acted arbitrarily. Reporting to Elder, this disciple remembers that there is a resting area on the east side. We can go there first. Mo Jingyuan honestly said. Alright, then we'll go east. Zhou Xian immediately controlled the monster monkey Yin corpse to go east. Chapter 400. Zhou Xian's monster monkey Yin corpses led the way. The further they went, the more fake iron corpses there were. Soon there was a black mass of fake iron corpses. The fake iron corpses had high defense, speed and killing power. They were very troublesome. If Zhou Xian hadn't released the 6 monster monkey Yin corpses to pave a bloody path, the disciples wouldn't have been able to move forward. Under Zishang's protection, Yun Jioga kept killing fiend corpses and collecting fiend beads to put in the demonic cauldron. Wow, Master, your bamboo grew, but why is it so strange? The little baby exclaimed. After the bamboo absorbed all the fiend beads, it broke out of the ground and grew a small red ball. It gave off a strange light. Yun Jioga took the chance to enter the demonic cauldron to take a look. He was curious about this strange thing and really wanted to plant it to see what it was. Master, take this chance to collect more fiend beads. I'll use them to plant a soul seed later, the little baby shouted excitedly. Master was usually too poor. It was rare to have such a good chance to get rich. He had to grasp it. Okay. Yun Jioga was also full of fighting spirit. Once she came out of the demonic cauldron, she found that the fiend corpses suddenly moved away from her. They looked like they'd seen a ghost. Your bamboo is very interesting. Zishang also found that something was wrong. He quickly released his monster energy to attract the fiend corpses. Otherwise, if they all ran away, Zhou Xian and the others would immediately find out it was Yun Jioga's problem. You mean these fiend corpses are afraid of the bamboo? Yun Jioga didn't believe it. How could the fiend corpses know the bamboo was in the demonic cauldron? Inside the demonic cauldron, the little baby was shaking his head to guide the aura on the bamboo out. He didn't know he was bringing trouble to Yun Jioga. This is just a guess of mine. If I want to verify it, I need to get more fiend beads. Zishang knew the little baby better than Yun Jioga, but he didn't think he'd be so brash. Okay, I'll try. Yun Jioga raised his evil blade and was about to start killing. The fiend corpses all ran to the side, putting great pressure on Wolf Fong and Mo Jingyuan. You should dig fiend beads in the back. Zishang quickly stopped Yun Jioga and then led the fiend corpses back. All right. Yun Jioga looked at the fiendish corpses that littered the ground. Zhou Xian's demon monkey had great destructive power, and the others were also busy protecting themselves behind him. No one had the time to dig for baleful pearls, it was really a waste. Although he would be scolded by them for picking up the leftovers, it shouldn't be a problem to dig it up and share it with them. Yun Jioga quickly made her decision. The evil weapon's red light swooshed across the zombie's head, and the baleful beads flew into her storage pouch. Bai Lan was extremely dissatisfied with Yun Jioga's actions. She wanted to protest, but when she saw Elder Zhou Xian's frosty little face, she immediately swallowed her words. In the current situation, staying alive was more important. It wouldn't be too late to deal with Yun Jioga later. Senior apprentice brother Mo, how long until we reach the safe zone? Siyue had killed so many evil corpses that she wanted to vomit. Another 500 meters. Mo Jingyuan's bone dragon abruptly rose into the air, quickly relaying the news. Alright, let's work harder, everyone. Let's kill our way through in one go. Siyue immediately pulled herself together. Wolf Fong and the rest also perked up and followed behind Zhou Xian to speed up. An hour later, Yun Jioga suddenly heard the sounds of fighting in front of them. Zhou Xian also heard it and asked loudly, which sect's disciples are in front? We are from the Soul Devourer sect. Dao friend, please come and save us. An extremely pathetic voice was heard. Zhou Xian, who had some friendship with the Soul Devourer sect's Zhou Hua, immediately led his disciples to kill them. The Soul Devourer sect's disciples were covered in a white protective soul weapon over their heads. They were holding magic weapons that looked like fire sticks as they killed the evil corpses. All of them were exhausted and many of them were injured. When they saw Chosun leading reinforcements, they were first overjoyed, then shocked. Elder Chosun, why are you here? If you want to live, then cut the crap. Follow behind us and continue forward. Chosun coldly threw out a sentence, then continued to kill towards the east. The Soul Devourer sect's disciples tactfully shut up and followed behind Yunjioga and the rest, carving out a bloody path. The safe zone was actually a messy pile of rocks. Tall rocks were piled up haphazardly. Those rocks were also black with a hint of red, but it was already very impressive that they could withstand the corrosion of the baleful rain. When everyone saw the pile of rocks, their spirits rose. They gritted their teeth and charged in. They never thought that as soon as they stepped into the pile of rocks, they would see a large pink net falling from the sky coming at them. Chosun's expression did not change as he made a gesture at the monster monkey-eaten corpses. The 6 monster monkey-eaten corpses jumped high into the air, sending the pink net flying. Elder Chosun? A surprised cry came from the pile of rocks. Following that, several girls wearing peach blossom red robes came out. They were the people from the Joyous Union sect. What do you mean by setting up a trap here? Bai Lan angrily said. Dao friend misunderstood, we didn't want to set up an ambush, we were worried that the evil corpses would charge in, so we set up a barrier. There were no offensive runes on the net. The Joyous Union sect disciple quickly explained. Bai Lan wanted to curse again, but she was stopped by Mo Jingyuan. If you don't speak, no one will think you're mute. They harmed us like this and you're blaming me? Bai Lan's eyes turned red with anger. Senior brother, don't blame this senior sister. She should have been affected by the baleful rain and her blood qi is surging, so she can't control her temper. Quite a few of us were affected, but it's fine as long as we eat the youth version. The leader of the Joyous Union sect said. This baleful rain really does affect a person's mood. Everyone has a clear heart pill, eat a few. Mo Jingyuan let go of Bai Lan and took out a bottle of clear heart pills. He ate 2 and then gave it to Wolf Fong. I have my own. Wolf Fong pushed away the pill Mo Jingyuan gave him and took out his own clear heart pill to eat. Mo Jingyuan was not angry, he silently put it away. Bai Lan did not care about ridiculing this couple, she just poured half a bottle of clear heart pills into her mouth, suppressing the anger in her chest. She was wondering why she was so easily angered this time. She thought it was because of the pressure, she did not think it was the influence of the baleful rain. Elder Chosun, fellow Taoists, the disciples of the other sects are all inside. Everyone follow me. The Joyous Union sect disciple led the way and walked into a tall pile of rocks. Yunjioga followed the Joyous Union sect disciple into the safe zone and found that the disciples of the 5 great sects were all gathered here, all of them looking battered and exhausted. After Chosun asked, he found out that everyone had encountered the same situation after entering the Fiend Corp's secret realm. First, it was the baleful rain, then they were surrounded by normal fiend corpses. Following that, the killing power of the fiend corpses increased greatly, and the 5 great sects all suffered losses. Among them, Joyous Union sect was the worst off. They lost 2 males and 1 female, leaving only 5 females. Elder Chosun, before we came in, Elder Peach Blossom told us to be on good terms with your Een Corpse sect. Please give us some pointers. The leader of the Joyous Union sect was an oval-faced beauty called Feng Ling Air. She was at the middle stage of foundation establishment. Those who entered the Fiend Corp's secret realm before, come out and carefully analyze the difference. Chosun ordered without any politeness. Chapter 401. Those who could enter the Fiend Corp's secret realm twice were all core disciples of the 5 sections. They were Mo Jingyuan of Corpse sect, Feng Linger of Joyful sect, Gui Ming of Thousand Ghost sect, Qian Hun of Soul Eater sect, and Li Kun of Black Fiend sect. These 5 people all told their experiences. In the end, there were only a few points. First, the environment had changed. The land, the clouds, and the smell were all different from before. Second, the pattern had changed. The fiend rain and fiend corpses had overturned the previous pattern. Third, the fiend corpses had changed. They had the strength of iron corpses but were still normal fiend pearls. Everyone was discussing the reason for these changes. Some said a fiend corpse king appeared in the Fiend Corp's secret realm. Some said the space was chaotic. Some said the secret realm's spirit energy had disappeared and was about to explode. Xishang, do you think they're right? Yunjioga sat in the corner and listened to the discussion. He was confused. She wouldn't be so unlucky as to encounter another king of the secret realm, right? She was lucky last time with the human-faced Peach King. It was hard to say if it happened again. It doesn't matter. Our goal is the bloody fiend pearls and the treasure map. Zhou Xian will definitely use these guys to lure the flying corpses out. You should think about how to deal with the flying corpses. Zhishang's concern was very practical. This is really a problem. Yunjioga started to secretly observe the disciples of the 5 sects to see if they would fall for Zhou Xian's trap. Just then, a burning gaze landed on her without any disguise. It was as if it was going to burn a hole in her. Yunjioga instinctively looked back and saw a beautiful face. Her big watery eyes were shining and the tear-shaped mole on her cheek was very obvious. It was Wuxia from Center State Sect. Yunjioga silently looked away. She didn't seem to have revealed any clues about the demonic cauldron. She didn't know why this girl was looking at her like this. Ignore her. Zhishang's voice came with a hint of anger. I'm not thinking about her. Yunjioga was wondering why Zhishang was suddenly angry. Then she noticed a fragrant wind. Wuxia snuck into the corner with a smile and sat close to Yunjioga. She smiled sweetly and said, "You must be senior brother Yunjio from Corpse Sect." "I'm Yunjio, but I really don't deserve to be addressed as senior brother." Her cultivation base was at the early stage of Jade Fiend Foundation establishment. Yunjioga should be the one calling her senior sister or senior. "Senior brother Yunjio, I've heard about you before and I've always admired you. This is a small token of my appreciation. I hope you won't mind." Wuxia handed over a storage pouch to Yunjioga in a fawning manner. There were no restrictions placed on the pouch. The pouch was slightly opened and one could see that it was filled to the brim with killing pearls. There were at least 1,000 of them. "Miss Wuxia, you're too kind. I can't accept a reward without doing anything. I can't accept this." Yunjioga rejected decisively. She did not want to get too close to a dangerous person like Wuxia. "I know these murderous pearls are worthless. Unfortunately, I accidentally lost my storage pouch when I was fighting earlier. I don't have anything good on me now." Wuxia looked like she was about to cry. It was as if she was feeling inferior for not being able to give the person she loved the most. Of course, Yunjioga was not delusional enough to think that Wuxia liked him, but he was a little tempted by these murder pearls. That strange plant and the grass soul seed both needed murderous pearls to cultivate. However, the murderous pearls that she had picked up earlier were not easy to use. She could trade them for something else. "If Miss Wuxia wants to trade, I have quite a few pills and charms here. Take a look and see which one you want," Yunjioga said. "Senior brother Yunjio is such a good person. I just happen to be lacking in clear heart pills. Why don't we trade for a bottle?" Wuxia's tears immediately turned into a smile. Her pair of beautiful eyes were still glistening with tears as she stared straight at Yunjioga. Her adoration for her was clear as day. "1 bottle is too little. I'll give you 3 bottles of clear heart pills and 2 bottles of spirit recovering pills." Yunjioga handed over the pills. When Wuxia took them, she hooked her finger around Yunjioga's palm. Her eyes were especially rippling. Yunjioga's scalp immediately went numb. She had been laughing at Mo Jingyuan for pursuing Wolf Fong earlier, and now it was her turn. Although she looked like a man on the outside, she was a genuine girl on the inside. She was only interested in Zhishang. Zhishang's eyes, which were hidden behind the Yin energy, were as sharp as knives. If it wasn't for the fact that she was a Yin corpse, he would have beaten this shameless Wuxia to death. "Don't think that you can hide from my eyes just because you possess a woman's body." At this moment, a sharp voice rang out. "Junior brother Yunjio, you've gone too far." Bai Lan suddenly stood up and pointed at Yunjioga as she shouted, "Elder Zhou Xian, we were killing the fiend corpses at the front, but junior brother Yunjio was picking up the baleful beads behind us. You've gone too far." "Senior sister Bai Lan has misunderstood. The baleful beads I picked up are all here. I was going to give them to Elder Zhou Xian later." Yunjioga had an innocent expression on his face. "Pei, you're clearly trying to take everything for yourself. Elder Zhou Xian, please don't fall for it." Bai Lan had finally managed to grab hold of Yunjioga's weakness. She really wanted to stomp him to death. "Shut up." Zhou Xian came back to his senses and said impatiently to Bai Lan, "If you have the ability, you can go ahead and dig. No one will stop you." Bai Lan was speechless. In that situation, it was good enough that she could stay alive. She didn't have the mood to dig up the baleful beads. Once you get it, it's yours. Don't hand it over stupidly. Chosun glanced at Yunjioga. To be honest, he didn't care about the baleful beads. Yes. Yunjioga nodded, very convinced. She wouldn't tell Chosun that she had dug up more than 10,000 baleful beads. Since Chosun didn't want it, she could just give it to the baby in the demonic tripod. The little cute baby immediately piled on top of the strange bamboo, and then squatted beside it to watch its changes. Half of Yunjioga's attention was on the demonic tripod and the other half was on Chosun's movements. Given the current situation, we can't just hide here. We have to investigate the situation in the mystic realm. Otherwise we'll be more and more passive, Chosun said in a low voice. The disciples of the 5 sects looked at each other. No one dared to speak. No one wanted to leave this safe zone to face the endless fiend corpses. Yunjioga could understand their feelings. Everyone was afraid of being ordered around by Cho Senator. To be honest, she was afraid herself. Chosun glanced at everyone and an inexplicable light flashed through his eyes. Then he continued, before entering the mystic realm, did the sect tell you under what conditions you can leave the mystic realm? Yes. Feng Ling and the others nodded. The mystic realm would be open for 10 days. Everyone had to obtain 10,000 normal baleful beads before they could leave. In other words, it was equivalent to 5,000 iron beads, 3,000 copper beads, 1,000 silver beads, 500 iron beads and 1 flying corpse bead. Do you think you can gather so many baleful beads in your current situation? Cho Sen's question hit the nail on the head. Chapter 402. Feng Ling and the others immediately fell silent. When they were surrounded, they only wanted to kill their way out. They were not in the mood to dig for baleful pearls. It was already good to have 1,000 far from 10,000. Now that ordinary corpses were at the level of iron corpse, it was very difficult for each of them to gather 10,000 baleful pearls. If you listen to me, I can guarantee that you will complete the mission. Chosun began to cast a long line to catch a big fish. Elder Chosun, if you have any good ideas, please enlighten us. Feng Ling said respectfully. You don't want to go out because you are afraid of not having anyone to rely on. If that's the case, we will use this safe zone as our base and form a triangular formation to kill the corpses. Chosun looked very confident. Feng Ling, Li Kuan, 1,000 spirits and the others looked at each other and were a little tempted. That is indeed a good idea. Mo Jingyuan took the initiative to say, in the past the corpses would not go near the safe zone. If we want to kill them, we have to go deep into the secret zone. There are no safe places to hide there and it is very dangerous. If we can kill the corpses at the entrance of the safe zone, we can come back to rest when we are tired or injured. The danger will be much lower. This is very important. We have to think about it carefully. Feng Ling and the others did not dare to agree hastily. Everyone is tired today. Rest well and we can reply tomorrow. Chosun knew that they would definitely agree. Senior brother Yunjio, can I team up with you? Yusha said pitifully. Didn't you come with the Black Fiend sect? Yunjiogu really did not understand why this girl was relying on him. We're just hitching a ride with them. We're not familiar with the people from the Black Fiend sect. Senior brother Yunjio, as long as you're willing to team up with me, once I've gathered 10,000 baleful pearls, you can have the rest. Don't worry, I'm very powerful. Jade Fiend kept trying to sell himself. He almost took out a contract to sell himself. Yunjiogu believed that Yusha was very strong. Other than the 5 demon sects, the other small sects and aristocratic families each had 2 spots, making a total of 10 people. Those people were all dead and only Yusha was left. Moreover, she was able to gather more than 1,000 baleful pearls. But because she was so strong, Yunjiogu did not dare to believe her and was afraid of being tricked. On top of that, Zishang did not like Yusha, so she had even more reason to reject him. I think this Yusha is not bad, master can still trust him. Little Menghua suddenly said. How do you know that she's not bad? Yunjiogu didn't know that the little boy could tell fortunes apart from planting grass. She gave you all the baleful beads on her body. Of course it's not bad. The little baby said plausibly. I also gave her the pill, okay? Yunjiogu felt that the little baby's reason was too ridiculous. In any case, she's not bad. The adorable little baby was in the wrong. How could it possibly tell Yunjiogu that it smelled the scent of 10,000 kills from Yusha's body? Although it had been sealed by that pervert Wan Sha for 5,000 years, it couldn't be denied that Wan Sha was still very loyal and infatuated with its master. Yusha stared at Yunjioga's changing expression in a daze. No one would have thought that the goddess who was so strong that people looked up to her, would be so weak after reincarnating. She was so weak that it seemed like she could be poked by a finger. It really made people want to bully her. However, Yusha only dared to think about it secretly. Otherwise, when the goddess recovered her memory and cultivation base, she would have to bear the consequences. Yunjioga didn't know that Yusha had ill intentions towards her. She even said to Zishang in a sweet and innocent manner, "The little baby said that this Yusha is not bad. What do you think?" Now that the Fiend Corpse Mystery Land was filled with danger, it was always good to have more trustworthy helpers. Zishang's expression was gloomy. He really wanted to kick Yusha out of the Mystery Land. However, the person who was most worried about Yunjioga's safety here was him and the person who possessed Yusha. In order to help Yunjioga get the bloody baleful beads, temporary tolerance was necessary. Zishang suppressed the jealousy in his heart and said to Yunjioga calmly, "Team up with her." Compared to his own feelings, Yunjioga's matters were more important. All right. Yunjioga had complete trust in Zishang. She immediately nodded at Yusha. "I'll team up with you. Senior brother Yunjio won't regret it." Yusha moved closer to Yunjioga. Her soft chest was pressed against her hand. Yunjioga was instantly speechless. Although she had been pretending to be a man for the past 2 years, she still did not have the intention to be a lesbian. "Senior brother Yunjio, let me tell you. Black Fiend sex Li Kuan and Soul Devourer sex Qian Hun are interested in that Feng Ling. However, Feng Ling likes your Yin Corpse sex Imo Jingyuan," Yusha whispered beside Yunjioga. "Really?" Yunjioga was a little excited when she heard this gossip. She took a closer look at Li Kuan and Thousand Spirits. Li Kuan had a single eyelid and a thin mouth. He looked cold and heartless. Thousand Spirits had a baby face and was all smiles. One look and one could tell that he was easy to get along with. The two of them were discussing something together. Every now and then they would glance in Feng Ling's direction. Feng Ling, on the other hand, was sitting next to Imo Jingyuan and talking softly. The two of them were a perfect match. Just based on their looks alone, they looked like a perfect couple. Feng Ling doesn't know that senior brother Imo likes men? Yunjioga could not help but ask. It's only when you know that there's a challenge. To be able to straighten the Jingu Bang is such a sense of accomplishment, Yusha said while grinning. Straighten it? Isn't she afraid of going too far and directly breaking it? Yunjioga asked seriously. Senior brother Yunjio is so humorous. Yusha laughed like a flower. Then she continued to point at a voluptuous and enchanting woman from the Joyous Union sect and said, "I heard that Hu Lingling and your Yin Corpse sex Wolf Fong are quite close. Back then she almost slept with him." Yunjioga recalled how Wolf Fong looked when he was poisoned by the peach blossom charming bone poison. Could it have been this Hu Lingling who poisoned him? Coincidentally, Hu Lingling stood up and twisted her body towards Wolf Fong. Before she could say anything, she was sent flying by Imo Jingyuan's palm. "Senior brother Imo, what's the meaning of this?" Feng Ling stood up with an extremely unfriendly expression. Although she liked Imo Jingyuan as the leader of the Joyous Union sect, she had to stand up for her sect's disciples. "Senior sister Feng, I just wanted to greet senior brother Wolf Fong. I don't know why senior brother Imo hit me." Junior sister who laid on the ground and cried, her breasts bouncing up and down. Many male disciples were watching with great interest. "You dare to touch my people? You're courting death." Imo Jingyuan's beautiful face was filled with hostility. "Your people?" Feng Ling looked at Wolf Fong with disdain as if she was looking at a little bitch. Wolf Fong's face was cold as if he did not know who the little bitch Feng Ling was talking about was. Jin Chuan, Si Yue and Jin Yanwei surrounded Zhou Xian and fawned over him. Bai Lan's eyes were fixed on Yunjioga, while Yu Zian was still calculating. No one came out to smooth things over and the scene immediately became awkward. Chapter 403. If you have the energy to fight over a girl, why don't you save it for tomorrow? Chosun said coldly. The sparks immediately cooled down. Imo Jingyuan sat next to Wolf while Feng Ling pulled Hu Lingling back to Joyful Sect. Although everyone quietened down, their faces were uneasy. They seemed worried about tomorrow's cooperation. "Senior brother Yunjio, don't worry. I'll protect you tomorrow." Yusha blinked and bumped Yunjioji's arm with her full chest. Yunjioga had goosebumps. He quietly moved closer to Zishang. Zishang looked at Yusha silently. If Wansha was next to him he would be a little worried. However, that brat wanted to use a woman's body to seduce Yun Jiogu. He really thought too highly of himself. The disciples of the 5 sects all had their own thoughts. The night passed without words. The next day outside the safe zone, there were still corpses everywhere. Fortunately, the rain had finally stopped. The rain has stopped and the bronze corpses have appeared. I don't need to explain how dangerous it is. I hope everyone can earn enough baleful pearls today to leave the secret realm as soon as possible. Chosun said seriously. Yes. The disciples nodded. No one dared to joke around with their lives. Next, Chosun started to explain the formation to fight against the corpses. He would lead the Een Corpse sect disciples in the middle road. Joyful sect and Soul Eater sect would be on his sides. Further out would be Thousand Ghost sect and Black Fiend sect. Although these 2 sects were a little far from Chosun, they were closer to the safe zone so they didn't have any objections. Arrange yourselves. It's best if 2 teams take turns to kill the corpses. Chosun meant for each sect to arrange themselves. This way they could save energy and have time to dig for the baleful pearls. Otherwise it would be a waste if they killed the corpses. Yes. Feng Ling Air and the others immediately arranged. Black Fiend sect's Li Kun glanced at Yusha. Yusha quickly pulled Yun Jioji's sleeve. Yun Jiogu immediately understood and said to Chosun, Elder Lady Yusha will come with me. Chosun glanced at Yusha and said indifferently, up to you. Een Corpse sect was under the most pressure in the middle road. Having more people would help. Thank you, Elder. Yusha politely replied and then smiled sweetly at Yun Jiogu. Yun Jiogu had goosebumps all over his body again. He quietly pulled Zishang and followed behind Cho Sr. Let's go. Chosun released the 6 monster monkey Een corpses and led everyone out of the safe zone. As far as the eye could see, the mountains and plains were covered in pitch-black evil corpses, and the sight of them caused their scalps to go numb and their legs to go weak. Yun Jiogu could not help but swallow his saliva. To be honest, if Chosun had not entered the arcane realm and played a leading role among the disciples of the 5 sects, the disciples of the 5 sects might not even have the courage to walk out of the safe zone. Begin. Chosun calmly waved his hand and the 6 monster monkey Een corpses charged at the fiend corpses. On the Een Corpse sect side, Mo Jingyuan, Siyue Jinchuan, and Yuzian were in the first echelon. Bai Lan, Jin Yanwei and Wolf Fong were the second echelon, responsible for digging baleful pearls. With Zishang around, Yun Jiogu did not have to go to the front lines. He only had to concentrate on digging baleful pearls at the back. Yusha's magic weapon was a bronze mirror carved with a picture of 10,000 devils. Not only could the red light it emitted kill ferocious corpses, but it could also affect the movements of the surrounding ferocious corpses. Zishang's weapon was a long blade condensed from Een energy, and it was incomparably sharp. The 2 of them stood side by side in front of Yun Jiogu, and their coordination was very good. Wave after wave of ferocious corpses fell behind them. Yun Jiogu followed behind them, happily digging baleful pearls. The other teams would rotate every hour, but Yusha and Zishang kept on, not showing any signs of exhaustion. Bai Lan sneaked a glance and was so jealous that she almost went crazy. In a moment of carelessness, the fiend corpse grabbed her arm and almost pulled her in. Luckily, Mo Jingyuan commanded the bone dragon in time to help her resolve the crisis. If you want to live, focus. Don't think about those useless things. Mo Jingyuan glared at Bai Lan fiercely. If it were not for the fact that they were from the same mountain, he would not care if she died. Bai Lan's expression was very ugly, but she did not dare to be distracted. She focused on fighting the fiend corpses. The weakness of these fake iron corpses was their chests. After getting used to it, killing them would be very fast. 2 hours later, everyone had accumulated several thousand baleful pearls, and their fighting spirit was getting higher and higher. At this moment, a bronze color appeared in the distance. Everyone be careful. The bronze corpses are coming. Their weakness is their necks, Mo Jingyuan reminded everyone loudly. Everyone's expression turned serious, and they were all on guard against the bronze corpses' attacks. The bronze corpses had higher defense and attack power than the iron corpses. They were especially fast and were extremely difficult to deal with. However, Yusha's copper mirror happened to restrain the bronze corpse's speed. Kill this side. Yusha controlled the copper mirror to cover a group of bronze corpses. Xianxia immediately chopped off the heads of the bronze corpses. Yunjioge used his evil saber to cut open the bronze corpses' heads, but found that the baleful pearls inside were still white. They were just a little bigger than normal ferocious corpses. Senior brother Imo, the baleful pearls of these bronze corpses are still white, Yunjioge asked loudly. How is that possible? Imo Jingyuan frowned. These bronze corpses were no different from the ones that appeared in the secret realm. Why weren't the baleful pearls bronze? Senior brother Imo, could it be that these iron corpses and bronze corpses are real, but their baleful pearls have been drained of their power by something? Fenglinger guessed. Now is not the time to study this. Imo Jingyuan looked up at the gradually gathering black and red clouds and said, let's quickly kill more before the baleful rain arrives. Unfortunately, as soon as he finished speaking, the pitter-patter of the baleful rain descended. No one dared to fight it head-on in the rain, so they could only retreat to the safe zone. The bronze corpses could not enter, so they kept swaying outside. When the rain stops, the silver corpses will appear. Imo Jingyuan sighed. The silver corpses would definitely be more difficult to deal with. Now that things have come to this, we can only fight on. Cho Sen's expression was cold, but his heart was very excited. As long as things went smoothly, the flying corpses would appear soon. Yunjioge had the same idea. When the flying corpses appeared, they must find out their weaknesses. Only then would they have the confidence to kill one alone with Xianxia. This time the baleful rain stopped very quickly. Cho Sen immediately urged everyone to go out and kill the enemies. Very quickly the silver corpses appeared and the disciples of the 5 sects began to die. The 10,000 Ghost sect and Black Fiend sect that were farther away from Cho Sen each had a male disciple die. Hu Lingling and Bailon were heavily injured. The two of them returned to the safe zone to bandage their wounds before quickly entering the battle. In this situation, if they didn't take the chance to dig out more baleful pearls, it would be very hard to collect 10,000. Don't think about others helping you, everyone was only thinking about their own lives. Like this, the baleful rain fell twice and the golden corpses finally appeared. Yunjioge looked at the golden light in the distance and felt his throat go dry. Fenglinger and the others immediately turned around to rush back to the safe zone, but they found a row of monster monkey-ine corpses standing behind them. Cho Sen's brows were filled with hostility. Chapter 404. Elder Cho Sen, what is the meaning of this? Fenglinger, Thousand Spirits, Li Kuan and Gui Ming's expressions all changed. I also want to ask you, what is the meaning of this? Are you trying to kill the other disciples by running now? Cho Sen's eyes seemed like he could see through their thoughts. Fenglinger and the others' faces turned white. Although they did not have enough infernal beads, as long as they split the number of dead disciples, they would be able to reach the required amount. As for the other disciples not having enough, they would just have to fight for it themselves. Who would care about that much? This matter could be done in secret, but it wouldn't look good if they did it out in the open. Senior apprentice sister, save us. Hu Lingling and the others who were blocking at the front all begged for mercy. They couldn't hold on much longer. Either we live together or we die together, you can choose for yourselves. Cho Sen of course did not want to save Hu Lingling and the others, but defeating this wave of golden corpses would attract the flying corpses. They could not afford to make a mistake at this critical moment. Elder is right, it was our mistake. Thousand Spirits was very sensible as he took out his magic weapon to join the battle. Elder Cho Sen was temperamental and could not be relied on. If they were at odds with their fellow disciples at this time, their situation would be even worse. Fenglinger, Li Kuan and Gui Ming also realized this point and immediately returned to their sects to help. The silver corpses gradually retreated and the golden corpses gradually approached. There were 2 kinds of golden corpses. One kind was thin and weak. Although their defense wasn't high, they were very fast and had a strong killing power. The other kind was tall and strong. Although they were very slow, the dark golden light they emitted had a strong defense, making people's hearts tremble. The 5 sect disciples all wanted to die when they saw the golden corpses covering the mountains. Luckily Cho Sen released 6 more monster monkey-ine corpses and scattered them into a large triangle formation among the 5 sections. He also had the 5 sect disciples form a small triangle formation with 2 monster monkey-ine corpses. The monster monkey-ine corpses could use their infernal chi to create a strong defense, so the 5 sect disciples were able to resist the attacks of the golden corpses. Originally they had split into 2 groups to take turns, but now they could only choose the most heavily injured person to dig out the infernal beads. But digging out the infernal beads was not easy. Not only did they have to go all out to dig out the infernal beads, they also had to be careful of being ambushed by the corpses. Yunjioge was no exception. At this time Wuxia was standing on the left side of the monster monkey Yin corpse, holding the bronze mirror and shining it on the speed-type golden corpses running at the front. Zhishang stood to the right of the monstrous monkey Yin corpse. A long blade condensed from Yin Qi suddenly chopped down, then suddenly turned into small blades, appearing strange and unpredictable. Yunjioge only cared about digging up baleful pearls. The golden corpse's baleful bead was no longer pale white, but had a faint golden hue. They were placed in piles on the strange branches by the little cute baby. It looked very spectacular. After eating so much there should be some changes. The little baby muttered as he squatted beside the strange branch. In order to raise this stupid thing he didn't even care about his favorite grass soul seed. He used all the spirit energy in the demonic tripod to worship it. If it still couldn't grow then don't blame me for using extreme methods to help it grow. He didn't know if it had heard the little baby's thoughts, but the red ball changed again. The red light grew upwards and elongated into a red tree. However, its branches and leaves were all made of black mist. The mist was like a dream, like it had a mysterious power that could pull people's minds in. Heavens, it's actually the soul-returning wood. The little baby jumped up from the ground exaggeratedly. Soul-returning wood, isn't that one of the 4 sacred woods? Yunjioge was also extremely shocked. That's right, it's one of the 4 sacred woods. If someone loses their soul they just need to use this wood to refine a pill for them. Even if their soul returns to the underworld they can come back. Although the little baby had 5,000 or 6,000 years of history, this was the first time he had seen the soul-returning wood. It was no wonder he couldn't recognize it at first. Then we're rich. Yunjioge was a bit excited. A treasure that could save a life was always the most valuable. Please, other people would use this treasure as a family heirloom. How could they sell it for money? The little baby had a disapproving expression. He felt that after his master reincarnated, his mind had become stupid. How could this kind of priceless treasure be measured with money? I'm just saying. Do you really think I'm stupid? Yunjioge rolled her eyes at the little baby in annoyance. While she was distracted, a speed-type golden corpse suddenly broke through the demon monkey's defense and grabbed at her. Before she could take out her evil blade, Zhishang and Wuxia had already attacked the golden corpse at the same time. The golden corpse was instantly blown to pieces. Zhishang snatched the baleful bead and brought it in front of Yunjioge. Wuxia was a bit depressed that her limelight was stolen. She looked at Zhishang strangely and said, "Senior brother Yunjio, your Yin corpse is not bad." She purposely gritted her teeth and emphasized the word Yin corpse. It's all right. Yunjioge didn't dare to say more. If Chosun found out that Zhishang, this 1,000-year-old corpse, was a fake it would be troublesome. Zhishang couldn't speak as he was a Yin corpse. He was too lazy to transmit his voice to Wuxia. He turned the Yin Qi blade in his hand and slashed a few golden corpses at Wuxia. Wuxia panicked and almost got hit. She said to Yunjioge with grievance, "Senior brother Yunjio, your Yin corpses are bullying me. That's too much." Yunjioge pretended she didn't hear it. Of course she would protect Zhishang between Wuxia and Zhishang. Zhishang's reply was to slash a few more golden corpses over. Wuxia didn't dare say another word. She could only curse in her heart. That damn Zhishang, he was still as stingy, overbearing and sinister as before. Yunjioge quickly dug out the baleful bead of the golden corpses and looked over the others. Siyue Jinyanwei and the others were quite relaxed around Cho Senator. The other Yin Corpse sect disciples were also fine. After all, the 3 monster monkey Yin corpses protecting Chosun were the strongest. They were all late Foundation establishment stage cultivators. The disciples of the other 5 sects were in a much more difficult situation. Even the strongest Feng Ling Heir and 1,000 spirits were injured. The others could only bitterly hold on. But they didn't dare retreat. They were relying on the monster monkey Yin corpses to hold them back. Fending Chosun would mean certain death. Be careful, the flying corpses are coming. Zhishang raised his head to look at the thick red and black clouds. He saw the fiendish rain begin to fall again. The speed golden corpses suddenly all turned around and retreated to the side of the defensive golden corpses. Like soldiers hearing the general's order to assemble, the originally scattered formation became incomparably orderly. The speed golden corpses no longer ran around. Instead, they hid behind the defensive golden corpses and formed a spear and shield formation, giving everyone a large amount of pressure. Flying corpses, it must be the flying corpses. Elder, let's quickly return to the safe zone. That's right, we've collected enough baleful beads. As long as we can hold on for another 5 days, we'll be able to leave the secret realm. The disciples of the 5 sects were scared out of their wits when they saw the golden corpses formation. They couldn't wait to return to the safe zone and hide. Chapter 405. If you can't kill the flying corpses, none of you can think about going back. Zhou Xian's cold and cruel voice rang out amidst the fiendish rain. The safe zone behind them exploded with a bang. The first half of the safe zone was immediately occupied by the silver corpses, forming a natural moat between the disciples and the rest of the safe zone. If he wanted to return to the safe zone now, he would have to pay a greater price. Elder, are you crazy? Feng Ling screamed hysterically. Even the Yin Corpse sect disciples were so angry that their eyes turned red. This was their only way to survive. The mystic realm has changed a long time ago. You can only survive by killing the flying corpses. You should be glad that I'm here. Otherwise you'd all be dead. Zhou Xian did not care about the hatred these disciples had for him. As long as they could help him kill the flying corpses, that was enough. Although the disciples of the 5 sects hated Zhou Xian, they did not dare to offend him. In the end, it was Feng Ling who broke the death-like silence. Elder Zhou Xian, if we help you kill the flying corpses, can you guarantee that you won't kill us or snatch our baleful beads? I'm not interested in your lives or your baleful beads. As long as you help me kill a flying corpse, I can guarantee that you will return to the safe zone. Then you can leave the Fiend Corpse secret realm in glory. However, if anyone dares to cause trouble, don't blame me for being impolite. A light flashed in Zhou Xian's eyes and the monster monkey Yin corpses scattered around them stomped their feet, causing the entire ground to shake. I hope Elder can keep his word, Feng Ling said through gritted teeth. Qian Hun, Li Kuan, Gui Ming and the others remained silent. Now that things had come to this, what else could they do but obey? You don't have to worry too much. Apart from being able to command the golden corpses, the flying corpses' biggest characteristic is their invisibility. I'll use a charm to break their invisibility later. Everyone just needs to use their divine sense to carefully sense it, then we'll be able to attack it. Zhou Xian slapped his storage bag and took out another 10 monster monkey Yin corpses, forming an inverted triangle with the original formation. A total of 32 high-level monster monkey Yin corpses finally calmed the hearts of the disciples of the 5 sections. It was then that the golden corpses began their assault. Wave after wave of golden corpses surged over. Although the defense of the 32 monster monkey Yin corpses was shocking, their numbers were limited. Yun Jioga and the others were like a small boat in a golden ocean, bobbing up and down in the waves as they welcomed the attacks with trepidation. Wolf Fang's cultivation was the lowest among the Yin Corpse sect disciples, and he had only been in Foundation establishment for 2 years. This kind of strong attack was extremely taxing on him. At this time, his forehead was full of sweat, and his long and narrow eyes were a little unfocused. His chest was heaving up and down violently, and the blood-red bone spurs were circling around him, almost instinctively attacking the golden corpses. There were countless times when he thought that he would collapse, but the tenacity brought about by surviving in the wolf pack allowed him to persevere. However, the most important thing was that Mo Jingyuan had helped him a lot. Mo Jingyuan's bone dragon was also a rare treasure that could use baleful qi, so compared to the other disciples, the pressure on him was much lower. He could even take care of Wolf a little. Wolf Fang panted heavily. Although this flirtatious senior brother Mo Jingyuan was very annoying, he had to admit that he had helped him a lot. If he could leave the Fiend Corpse secret domain alive, he would remember this favor. However, when he thought about leaving this place alive, Wolf did not have the slightest confidence. The flying corpses had yet to appear and everyone was already on the brink of collapse. Could they really persevere until then? Wolf Fang's scattered thoughts floated back to the small mystic domain from a long time ago. At that time, it was all thanks to Yun Jioga's help that they managed to escape. He did not know if she would have such good luck again. Wolf Fang could not help but look at Yun Jioga, but he saw her hiding in the back, digging for baleful beads, not even daring to shrink her head. Haha, he must be crazy to actually rely on someone at Qi Refinement Great Perfection to think of a solution. He might as well hope that Elder Chosun would be merciful and let them return to the safe zone. Chosun had his hands behind his back and he was completely focused on the black-red clouds in the sky, ignoring the golden corpse's attacks. After the time it took for a joss stick to burn, the baleful rain gradually stopped, and so did the golden corpse's attacks. However, no one felt happy at all. The baleful rain stopped and the flying corpses appeared. Yunjioga had just gotten angry at this thought when she saw the clouds rolling over from afar. A black figure mixed with the dense baleful qi pounced towards everyone. Ah! A shrill scream rang out. Hu Lingling's body was suddenly grabbed by the flying corpse into the air, and she was instantly torn into countless pieces of flesh. Blood rained down on everyone's heads and faces. One person had been killed in just one move. The disciples of the 5 sects all turned pale with fear. Chosun's eyes glowed, and a strange red talisman fell onto the flying corpse. This was a 5th-grade divine sense restriction. It was usually used by the elders of the clan on their beloved juniors to protect their juniors' divine sense. Now that Chosun used it on the flying corpse, it instantly scattered the baleful qi, revealing a human-shaped black fog. The black fog appeared in front of everyone for a moment and then quickly disappeared. The disciples were even more flustered. An invisible enemy was the scariest. Use your divine sense to sense my talisman and you'll be able to find it. Chosun summoned his bloodthirsty bat-bone spur, and stabbed it towards the empty west side. The flying corpse's figure immediately flashed and once again disappeared, but it couldn't escape Chosun's attack. The other disciples of the 5 sects swept out with their divine senses, and found the flying corpse. Their minds shook and they immediately sent out their strongest attacks. Although the monster monkey-ine corpse's attack power was strong, it didn't have divine sense to use, so it could only focus on defense. This was also the reason why Chosun wanted the disciples of the 5 sects to stay. Everyone attacked the flying corpse with all their might and managed to deal quite a bit of damage to it. In particular, Chosun acted as if he had killed his father. Every time the bloodthirsty bat's bone spur attacked, it would take away a chunk of the flying corpse's baleful aura. Under the bombardment, the baleful aura on the flying corpses disappeared rapidly. The disciples of the 5 sects became more and more courageous as they fought. They all wanted to take down the flying corpse in one go. Yunjioga did not attack with the others. Instead, he hid behind the purple deceased sword and carefully observed the flying corpses. The flying corpses were extremely fast and nimble in the air. It was all thanks to Mo Jingyuan Feng Ling'er, and the rest that their imperial equipment attacks were strong enough. Otherwise, they would not have been able to catch up to the flying corpse's speed. However, the most powerful one was still Cho Senator. His attack power was strong and he was well prepared, causing great damage to the flying corpses. No matter how Yunjioga looked at it, he felt that Cho Sen's method of dealing with flying corpses was not suitable for the purple deceased sword. The spiritual sense restriction charm that Chosun had just used had cost him at least 10 years of cultivation, and it was specifically used to break the flying corpse's invisibility ability. Zishang did not have such a treasure. No matter how Yunjioga thought about it, he could not think of a way to deal with the flying corpses. But if he couldn't obtain the bloody baleful bead, what would he do about the 9 layers of broken bones in her body? This was only the 3rd layer of poison. It would be even harder to find the antidote in the future. What should he do? Yunjioga was confused and he was filled with despair. Chapter 406. Master, this is very simple. You just need to cultivate the grass soul seed and it will run to the flying corpse. The little baby's voice sounded in Yunjioga's mind. Isn't the grass soul seed only used to cultivate ine corpses? How can it be used on fiend corpses? Yunjioga was confused. Originally it wouldn't work, but I recently poured some secret medicine on it. Whether it's a ine corpse or a fiend corpse, it's all the same to it. If Master's luck is good and the grass soul seed can swallow the flying corpse, you'll have a ready-made flying corpse little brother. In order to perform well in front of his master, the little baby also put in a lot of effort to cultivate the grass soul seed. Otherwise, if it only knew how to pour water, it wouldn't be qualified to be his master's magic treasure. The previous owner was very cruel and would never raise useless things. Then hurry up and cultivate the grass soul seed. Yunjioga was excited. Master, You just need to send in another 1,000 baleful beads and I can immediately cultivate the grass soul seed for you, the little baby vowed. No problem. Yunjioge was full of fighting spirit. He looked at the golden corpse on the ground as if he was looking at a treasure. He picked up the evil knife and started digging. After he was done, he sneaked over to Zhou Xian to fish in troubled waters. At this time, Zhou Xian and the disciples of the 5 sects were fighting the flying corpses with all their might. They didn't care about these baleful beads. Yunjioge very smoothly dug out 1,000 baleful beads and sent them into the demonic cauldron. The little baby happily took the grass soul seed and then arranged it into a formation. He muttered, "Baby, baby, grow up quickly. When you grow up, you'll become a demon doll. You'll eat meat and drink blood. You'll eat bones and souls." Such evil words made Yunjioge speechless. He felt that the grass soul seed would be planted crookedly by the little baby, but he couldn't care too much in this situation. As the little baby muttered, the grass soul seed slowly sprouted and turned into a palm-sized gray person. It had a round head, a short neck, a round body, thin arms and thin legs. It looked quite cute. However, the gray round face had no facial features. It looked a bit strange. "Master, hurry up and drip blood to make it recognize you as its master. Then you can let it eat the flying corpse." The little baby hurried. Yunjioge bit his index finger and gave a drop of blood to the demonic tripod. The little adorable child held the drop of blood and placed it on the face of the little gray person. Its facial features gradually appeared. It was exquisite and beautiful, and its temperament was outstanding. It looked exactly the same as Yunjioge. "Why does he look like me?" Yunjioge felt strange. "After drinking your blood, of course I'll look like you. Master's blood is the most powerful," the little baby said matter-of-factly. Back then it had attached itself to the black-skinned mouse to search for its master. Because it had been too long, it had become muddle-headed. In the end, it had to drink a drop of its master's blood to awaken completely. What should we do next? Let them out and bite the flying corpses? Yunjioge felt that it was better not to dwell on these details. In any case, it was fine as long as they could catch the flying corpse. Of course not. The little cute baby grabbed the little gray person, then looked at the gaze and said excitedly, "Now is not the time." Yunjioge suspiciously followed the little baby's gaze and saw that the flying corpse in the air had been scattered by Zhou Senator. It could die at any moment. But Zhou Xin did not relax his vigilance. Instead, he gathered everyone together and warned, "The flying corpse will go berserk when it's about to die. This is the hardest time to deal with, so you must be careful." As soon as his voice fell, the flying corpse's hazy figure was suddenly filled with a blood mist. Then it turned into gold, silver, copper and iron colors and charged forward at an even faster speed. The disciples of the 5 sects were already prepared and immediately hid behind the monster monkey-ean corpses. They never thought that the flying corpse would grab the 2 monster monkey-ean corpses and instantly tear them to pieces. Zhou Sen's pupils shrank. Although he already knew that the flying corpse's dying strike would be very terrifying, he never thought it would be this terrifying. He gritted his teeth and gathered the monster monkey-ean corpses together, compressing them into a line of defense in front of the 5 sects' disciples, allowing them to continue their attack. But the berserk flying corpse was very strong. It fought the monster monkey-ean corpses with its bare hands, just like a lion entering a flock of sheep. What was even more terrifying was that the weapons of the 5 sects' disciples could only leave shallow marks on its body. Most of Mo Jingyuan's bone dragon was scattered by the flying corpse's palm. Zhou Sen's blood-sucking bat was also thrown into its mouth and was bitten to pieces with a kacha-kacha sound. Following that, 3 more male disciples were caught by the flying corpse and eaten. Even their souls were swallowed. 12 of the 32 monster monkey-ean corpses had been destroyed and the remaining ones were missing arms and legs. They could only barely maintain a defensive barrier to block the golden corpse's attack. After the flying corpse ate the flesh, the killing intent on its body became even stronger. It was comparable to a late golden core stage cultivator, making people feel despair. Even Chosin felt a bit regretful. "Elder, please let us go, I don't want to die here." Feng Ling air collapsed as she cried. "Elder, where there's life, there's hope. These flying corpses are too strong and we're not its match. How about we return to the safe zone and discuss countermeasures?" Cui couldn't help saying. The disciples of the 5 sects had already collapsed. If they continued, they would be completely wiped out. There's no turning back now. Zhou Xian gritted his teeth and said, "This flying corpse is sinister and cunning, it's cruel and cold. If we turn around and run now, we'll only be swallowed by it." The disciples of the 5 sects were in despair. There were even a few people who were paralyzed on the ground, already waiting for death. Zishang and Wuxia quickly returned to Yunjioga's side, preparing to bring Yunjioga back to the safe zone if the situation turned bad. Yunjioga looked at such a strong and terrifying flying corpse and felt his scalp go numb. This was a monster that was impossible to destroy. Could the grass soul seed really swallow him? At this moment, the little baby's excited voice suddenly sounded, "All right, we can go." "Hey, wait." Yunjioga quickly stopped him, but it was too late. The little baby excitedly threw the little gray person in his hand out, turning into a gray light that drilled into the flying corpse amidst the rain of blood. The light on the flying corpse's body immediately increased, as if it had fallen into chaos. "It's starting to eat, it's starting to eat." The little baby clapped his hands and shouted, just short of cheering for the grass soul seed. "Is it really effective?" Yunjioga found it hard to believe that such a powerful flying corpse was really going to be destroyed. "Of course, don't you know who planted it?" The little baby looked proud. Yunjioga was happy at first, but then he realized a very serious problem. After the grass soul seed swallows the flying corpse, will it immediately recognize me as its master? Of course, the grass soul seed is as loyal to you as I am to you. The little baby took the opportunity to confess, but Yunjioga's face was crumbling. If this flying corpse recognized her as its boss in front of Zhou Xian and the disciples of the 5 sects, then everyone would know that she had a secret. Wasn't that courting death? Chapter 407. I can only use it at this time. The little baby felt wronged. Although the grass soul seed it cultivated was very powerful, it couldn't kill the flying corpse at its peak. It could only attack when the flying corpse was at its weakest. "Then can you let the flying corpse leave first? At least don't come to me in front of so many people." Yunjioga took a step back. "I'll give it a try." The little baby closed his eyes and began to mutter again. After a while he said apologetically, "I can't." "Why?" Yunjioga frowned. If it really recognized him as its master, then it should be very obedient. Because the grass soul seed failed to devour and the flying corpse is about to explode. The little baby said with a serious face. "But..." Yunjioga's eyes widened as he looked over. He saw the flying corpse in the sky flickering with 4 colors: gold, silver, copper, and iron. The red light on its chest was so hot that it looked like a small red sun, emitting a terrifying light. Zhou Xian's face revealed a frightened expression. He immediately had the demon monkey Yin corpse lead the disciples of the 5 sects to quickly retreat. Zishang rushed over like lightning, grabbing Yunjioga and leaving in the opposite direction. Wuxia also desperately followed. The 2 of them were faster than everyone else, and in the blink of an eye, they were several miles away from the flying corpse. They never thought that after the flying corpse let out a pained and angry roar, it would use a desperate stance to fly towards Yunjioga. With a loud bang, the explosion of the flying corpse sent all the nearby golden corpses flying. Wolf Fong and the others who were several miles away were also blown away by the blast. When they got up, they saw a large crater in the distance. "Junior brother Yunjio, junior brother Yunjio." Wolf Fong shouted with a hoarse voice, but no one answered. Jin Chuan and the others all had heavy expressions. They knew that Yunjioga must have been blown to pieces. Zhou Xian stood beside the large crater with an ashen face. His eyes were bloodshot and his fists were tightly clenched. He didn't care if Yunjioga was dead or alive. He was just sad that he had carefully planned everything, but he still couldn't get the flying corpse's blood fiend bead. "Elder, the flying corpse exploding was unexpected. Let's go back and think of a countermeasure. We'll come back next time." Cue comforted him. "Let's return to the safe zone." Zhou Xian exhaled heavily, turned around and left. No matter what, he had already accumulated experience in dealing with flying corpses. When the Fiend Corp's secret territory opened again, he would definitely be able to successfully obtain the Bloody Fiend Pearl. Before Cue left, she took one last look at the crater. She could not help but sigh in her heart. Yunjioga had died at such a young age. Yunjioga woke up in a daze and found himself lying on a patch of grass in a small forest. She looked at the cold sky above her head in confusion. She was surrounded by long grass, a green forest on her left and a stream on her right. His nose was no longer filled with the disgusting stench of the fiend corpse secret realm, but with the smell of grass and soil. Could she have already left the fiend corpse secret realm? No, she remembered that in the fiend corpse secret realm, the flying corpses had rushed in front of them and exploded. Xianxia hugged her and took all the damage. Then he fell into the distorted space with her. Z decease. Yunjioga shouted in panic. Don't shout so loudly. I'm fine. A weak voice sounded in Yunjioga's mind. Yunjioga quickly rolled up her sleeves. The purple mark on her wrist was still there, but the color was very dim. No matter what, as long as Zishang was still alive, it was fine. What was that flying corpse explosion? Zishang thought of the flying corpse's desperate stance and suspected that something had happened to Yunjioga. It's that stupid little baby. He said that the grass soul seed he cultivated could devour flying corpses. Thinking of this, Yunjioga wanted to beat the little baby up. Little Menghua, you know what to do. Something must have happened. Zishang did not intend to blame little Menghua. I'll call it out and ask. Yunjioga was about to contact the demonic tripod when she realized in horror that her meridians were in chaos. The 9-layer bone-shattering poison in her dantian spread throughout her body, completely blocking the circulation of spiritual power. Not only had she lost contact with the demonic tripod, but she could not open her storage bag either. Even worse, her disguise had been removed. She had returned to her female appearance. It blocked the explosion for us. It probably hasn't recovered yet, Zishang comforted Yunjioga. Your injury is only temporary. Don't worry too much. If you're a girl, then so be it. There have been cases of men turning into women in the corpse sect, Zishang comforted Yunjioga. The illusion grass he had given Yunjioga was limited. Yunjioga could not be a man forever. She would have to find a chance to change sex. Fortunately, this was not rare in the evil sect. All right. Yunjioga did not know what to say anymore. She felt pain all over her body, especially her left leg, which was excruciating. Did you break a bone? Zishang noticed Yunjioga's abnormality. I think so. Yunjioga gasped as he carefully rolled up his trouser leg. His fair calf had been fractured and deformed. Zishang was seriously injured. Her cultivation was gone and her leg was disabled. She couldn't be more miserable. It's okay. When I recover, everything will be better. Zishang's voice was very calm and firm. Okay. Yunjioga quickly calmed down after her panic. She searched the ground for a relatively large tree branch. Then she tore off the hem of her gown. She clenched her teeth and straightened her leg bone. Only then did she tie it up tightly. After doing all this, she was sweating profusely. Leave this forest after daybreak. Find someone to ask about the situation as soon as possible, Zishang said. There's not much time left until daybreak. I'll leave now. Yunjioga used 2 thick branches as crutches to get up with difficulty. Then she walked upstream along the stream. After walking for about an hour, when the sun was in the middle of the sky, Yunjioga finally saw a small village in the distance. She immediately became spirited. As long as there were people, they would know what this place was. If she could find some spirit grass to suppress the poison in her body, she would be able to use the things in the storage bag. Don't rush in. Let's check the situation first. Zishang stopped Yunjioga's excited footsteps. Okay. Yunjioga calmed herself down and sneakily walked along the remote path towards the village. It was broad daylight, but there was not a single person in the village. It was eerily quiet. When she reached the center of the village, she heard a sorrowful voice. Great Messenger, please let my daughter live. She's still young. She's still young. Shut up. If you dare to stop me again, I'll kill your entire village. An arrogant voice rang out. Yunjioga hid nearby and peeked out. The scene in front of her immediately shocked her. Chapter 408. In the middle of the village stood a group of dark blue armed soldiers. In the middle was a black-robed, shifty-eyed middle-aged man. The black-robed emissary was holding onto an 8-year-old girl with a sluggish expression as if she had been hypnotized. In front of them was a group of villagers kneeling and begging for mercy. Among them, a village woman in tattered clothes was kowtowing and begging for mercy. From the looks of it, it was her child who had been kidnapped. Yunjioga was not surprised by the act of forcibly kidnapping a civilian girl. What surprised her was that these people looked very different from ordinary people. They all had light gray skin, slightly red eyes, and light purple lips. Among these people, the villagers had the darkest skin, which was dark gray. Their lips were also very dark. The soldiers' skin was brownish gray, while the black-robed emissaries was light gray. The 8-year-old girl's skin was slightly white, and her eyes were black and bright. She looked very similar to the humans outside. Although these people's strange skin made them look like they were terminally ill, their loud cries and curses showed that they were very healthy. Yunjioge looked down at her pale palms. Even though she still had a Tomane face, she was much more normal than those natives. These people are strange. Don't come into contact with them. Let's leave this place first, Zhixiang said. Before figuring out the strangeness of this place, he would rather have Yunjioge hide in a corner and slowly wait for her injuries to heal than let her come into contact with these dangerous people. No rush. Let's wait and see. Yunjioge finally met someone. How could she bear to leave without getting some information? Sir Emissary, you don't have to care about these unruly people. Let's take this seed back first, the soldier leader said fawningly. They did not care about these unruly people. You guys do as you see fit. The black-robed emissary nodded. This time the edict required him to collect 16 little girls. He had only completed half of the task. He still had work to do. Cui cui. The skinny village woman saw her daughter being taken away and let out a heart-wrenching wail. Probably because the hearts of mother and daughter were connected, the originally sluggish little girl trembled and suddenly woke up. Seeing that her mother was blocked by a group of strangers, she let out a sorrowful scream. A gray aura suddenly rose from her dantian and spread throughout her body. Her originally fair skin began to turn gray, her eyes red and her lips purple just like her mother. Yunjioge's pupils constricted. She could clearly see that the little girl's body had suddenly exploded with a murderous aura. Could it be that the villagers also had murderous aura? If they were affected by the baleful aura, why didn't they die? Damn it. When the black-robed messenger saw the little girl's skin turn gray, he immediately raised his hand in rage and slapped the little girl away. Tsuetsue. Tsuetsue's mother scrambled over to pick up her daughter. Her heart ached as she looked at the gray blood oozing out of the corners of her mouth and nose. Lord Envoy, we've lost another good seed. What should we do? The leader of the soldiers was also anxious. This was the best seed they had found during this period of time. They didn't expect it to be contaminated at this critical moment. The black-robed emissary glared at the villagers with his triangular eyes. A vicious glint flashed across his eyes as he coldly spat out a line of words. Contaminated seeds must be washed clean with blood. Yes. When the soldiers heard this order, they immediately nodded. They drew out the long sabers from their waists and pointed them at the villagers. Lord spare us! Lord spare us! The villagers cried out in panic. Seeing that a massacre was about to begin, Yunjioge's heart skipped a beat. She wanted to stop this tragedy from happening. But now that her cultivation base had disappeared, she was weaker than a chicken. How could she have the ability to fight back? At this critical moment, a group of masked men in gray robes sped over from afar. Each of them wielded a chilling long sword. The moment they landed, they began fighting with the soldiers. It's the Revolutionary Army. The Revolutionary Army is here to save us. When the villagers saw the group of men in gray robes, they were instantly invigorated. Some of the strong men even picked up their weapons and joined in the battle. Both sides were in a mess. Unruly peasants, you're courting death. The black-robed emissary took out a black, withered claw and shot out a black-red beam of light at the villager who was charging at the front. That villager cried out in pain as he was instantly engulfed by the black-red beam of light. Magic weapon. Yunjioge nearly cried out. If there were magic weapons in this world, there should be cultivators too. If they were used well, there would be great benefits. After killing the villagers, the black-robed emissary revealed a smug smile. He wanted to use the same trick on those masked men in gray robes. However, a sword beam shot out from the leader's hand, chopping off the black-robed emissary's arm. The black-robed emissary let out a tragic cry. That withered claw and the magic weapon immediately fell to the ground along with his severed arm. They were snatched away by another gray-robed man. The situation was instantly reversed. The black-robed emissary and the soldiers were all killed. We can't hide the black-robed emissary's matter. You have to leave immediately. Otherwise it will be too late when the imperial court sends troops to massacre the village. The leader of the gray-robed men said to the villagers. Boo! It's going to be winter soon. Where can we go? That's right. There's no farmland and no food. How can we survive? When the villagers heard that they had to leave the place they relied on for survival, they began to cry. Everyone, don't worry. Our revolutionary army has built a city in Mount Duching. You can continue living there. The gray-robed leader consoled them. Thank you, sir. We will follow you. The villagers knew that killing the black-robed emissary would not end well. All of them agreed to leave with the revolutionary army. Sir, help me take a look at Zhou. She hasn't reacted after being beaten. Could something have happened to her? Zhui's mother squeezed in with her child in her arms. The gray-robed leader glanced at the child and consoled her. It's fine. She just awakened and hasn't adapted to her body's condition. She will be fine soon. Thank you, thank you. Zhui's mother finally felt relieved as she carried her child. Yunjioge shrank into a corner, guessing the relationship between seeds, awakening, emissaries and the revolutionary army. Suddenly Zhishang warned, not good. We've been discovered. Yunjioge was alarmed. She wanted to escape but it was already too late. The gray-robed leader suddenly turned around and shouted, Who's there? Before he finished speaking he appeared in front of Yunjioge. Then he looked at her and shouted in shock, Woman's seed. What? Yunjioge was stunned. How did she become a seed? She really is a seed. A group of people surrounded her and looked at Yunjioge as if she was a monster. Miss, you also escaped, right? How pitiful. You even broke your leg. Those damned bastards will suffer retribution sooner or later. Zhui's mother cursed. Yunjioge looked at everyone's sympathetic eyes and wisely chose to shut her mouth. She was prepared to act according to the situation. Chapter 409. Take her back and bandage her wounds, the leader in gray ordered. Don't be afraid, with the revolutionary army around, those bastards won't be able to find trouble with you. Zhui's mother called a few women to help Yunjioge into the house and started to clean her wounds. Yunjioge saw that these women were efficient and took out the right herbs, so she obediently bandaged their wounds. Miss, do you not remember the past? Zhui's mother asked for a long time without getting any response, so she immediately found the reason for Yunjioge. She was just about to doze off and someone sent her a pillow. Yunjioge nodded without hesitation. Those bastards must have fed you the water of oblivion. They want you to forget everything that happened in the past so they can do whatever they want. Yunjioge finally figured out the truth about the seed while Zhui's mother was scolding him. It turned out that in this world, status was determined by the color of one's skin. The darker the skin, the lower the status. The lighter the skin, the higher the status. If one had fair skin, they could enter the palace to be a concubine. At first, everyone thought it was a great honor, so they would take good care of fair-skinned girls, hoping that they would be sent to the palace to be a noble by the time they turned 16. However, the soil here was very strange. Once a girl passed the age of 8, her skin would slowly turn gray. It was rare for a fair-skinned noble to live until 16. White-skinned nobles were very delicate. Not only did they have little strength, they were easily injured and their bodies were very weak. They couldn't do any heavy work, so it was difficult for them to live until 16. However, although the fair-skinned nobles were physically weak, they were all very intelligent and had a high status in their families. Even if they didn't enter the palace, they could still lead their families to the top. Some especially powerful ones were not only the family's favorites, but they could even become popular in the whole village or town. Until one day, a rich family secretly hid a fair-skinned noble in their family, and the whole family was executed. Only then did everyone know that their pampered fair-skinned daughters weren't sent to the palace to be concubines, but to be the seeds of the devil. All of them died tragically in the palace. From then on, the number of fair-skinned women decreased rapidly. Other than those black-hearted people who wanted to trade their children for wealth, no one with a conscience was willing to send their pampered children to die in the palace. Even the white-skinned children would try their best to awaken into gray-skinned people when they grew up. The palace couldn't get enough white-skinned women, so they started to plunder them. They didn't even let off 8-year-old children who hadn't grown up. The imperial court was in chaos and the people had no way to make a living. Those corrupt officials exploited the people in the name of searching for seeds, and they even found excuses to slaughter wantonly and seize their wealth. They were incomparably cruel. It was at this time that the Revolutionary Army appeared. They went around saving the white-skinned women, killing those cruel envoys and helping the people arrange a place to stay. Don't be afraid, young lady. Although it's a little difficult for you to awaken at this age, there are many capable people in the Revolutionary Army. They will definitely have a way to help you awaken. When the time comes, you'll turn into gray skin like us. You won't have to worry about being sent to the palace to be defiled. Tsuetsue's mother comforted her. Yunjioge was not a native, so how could he awaken? He could only remain silent. This place is very strange. Zishang's voice rang out again. The baleful aura on them is the same as the one in the Fiend Corp's secret realm. It's very likely that they're the descendants of the cultivators who were trapped in the Fiend Corp's secret realm. If you want to leave this place, you'll have to go to the palace to find clues. I have a feeling that the emperor isn't looking for the white-skinned women just to be defiled. Even if you want to enter the palace, you'll have to wait until I recover my cultivation. Otherwise, I'll just be courting death. From the attitude of those soldiers, it was obvious that they didn't take the white-skinned people seriously. Of course, Zishang also needed to hurry up and recover. If anything happened, he wouldn't be able to save Yunjioge in time. The gray-skinned people's medicine was very good. Yunjioge's broken bones healed very quickly. During this time, the Revolutionary Army had been helping Xiaogao village prepare to move. Every household packed everything they could use and carried them on their backs. They didn't even let a rotten pot go. After Yunjioge recovered, she followed the Revolutionary Army and the villagers to the deep mountains. The mountain path was steep and it was difficult to walk. Not to mention, these villagers all had their families with them. Every one of them was carrying a few big bags. However, they walked like the wind and didn't look tired at all. Even Cui Cui, who had just awakened, could carry her own little goat and follow behind the group. On the contrary, Yunjioge was the weakest cultivator. Cui Cui's mother even comforted her, saying that she was much stronger than the ordinary white-skinned nobles. Before her daughter awakened, she would be exhausted after walking on flat ground for a few minutes, let alone carrying a little goat on a mountain path. Yunjioge originally thought that after he cultivated the 10,000 beasts art, his body was much stronger than a normal person's. However, in front of these gray-skinned aunties, it was nothing. Zishang, these gray-skinned people are too powerful. After awakening, they have great strength, never fall sick, and their reproductive ability is also very strong. They can be considered an excellent evolution. Why does the emperor here classify the gray-skinned people as inferior people and the white-skinned people as superior? Yunjioge felt that it was very strange. These gray-skinned people were just normal people and they were already so powerful. If they were good seedlings, wouldn't they be even more powerful? If they were trained well, they could definitely raise a very terrifying army. They would definitely be fought over by the big sects outside. I think it's strange too. I guess we can only find out the secret of this place after we enter the palace. Zishang had recovered a little after this period of time, but he still couldn't show himself and follow Yunjioge. If this place really is related to the Fiend Corp's hidden realm, what if we can't leave in time for the hidden realm to open? Yunjioge was worried when he thought about this. There were only 7 days left until the Fiend Corp's hidden realm opened. Our lives are more important. Let's take it one step at a time. Zishang was not in a hurry. If worst came to worst, he could just stay here until the next time the Fiend Corp's hidden realm opened. I don't have that much time to waste in this damn place. Yunjioge thought about it and decided to talk to the leader of the rebel army. If they could come to an agreement, it would be even better. With the help of Cui Cui's mother, Yunjioge finally got the chance to meet the leader of the rebel army. After dinner, Cui Cui's mother brought Yunjioge to a tent. She whispered, "The leader is inside. If you have any problems, talk to him. He will definitely help you." "Thank you." Yunjioge smiled at Cui Cui's mother gratefully and walked into the tent alone. There was a tall, muscular man standing inside. He wore a bronze mask so his face could not be seen. His voice was also very cold. "I heard you wanted to talk to me about something." "Yes, leader. Although I have lost my memory, I still vaguely remember that there is a very important sister among the white-skinned people who were captured with me. I want to go back and save her. Please help me." Yunjioge looked at the leader with sincerity. Chapter 410. You want to go back? The leader was taken aback. He had never seen a white-skinned woman who had escaped the clutches of a demon and then returned. Yes. Yunjioge nodded vigorously and said righteously, the emperor is cruel and the people have no way to make a living. I don't want others to suffer like me. She did not believe that the leader of the rebel army did not want to overthrow the tyranny and sit on the highest position. The leader's eyes flashed with a strange light. He sized Yunjioge up as if he had just met her, then said, but if you enter the harem, you are likely to die. Death is inevitable. Death can be as heavy as Mount Tai, or as light as a feather. It depends on how you use it, Yunjioge said firmly. In order to leave this damned place as soon as possible, she had to enter the palace and find out the truth as soon as possible. Good. The leader could not help but clap his hands and praise her. He said, since you have such a great ambition, I will definitely help you achieve your wish. Thank you, leader. I hope you can arrange for me to enter the palace as soon as possible. Yunjioge bowed and left the tent. The leader stood in place for a moment and then said, Bai, what do you think? This Miss Yun has great ambition. She is admirable. A clear voice sounded. A man in a black robe and a white mask appeared in the originally empty tent. Could she be sent from the other side? The leader asked again. Probably not. This girl has no cultivation at all. Moreover, she has a strange poison in her body. Maybe she knows that she will not live for long, so she wants to sacrifice herself, the white-masked man said. In that case, send her to the palace and find someone to watch over her, the leader nodded. That lunatic had not obtained an adult seed for a long time. He would be very satisfied to see this Miss Yun. I'll follow your orders. The white-masked man bowed and left. In a tent not far from the leader, Yunjioge was taking a nap. After the person watching her left, she called out to the mark, Xianxia, have you found any clues? The leader's cultivation is in the foundation establishment stage. He has a black-robed messenger with him who is in the middle stage of the foundation establishment stage. They have already made plans to send you to the palace tomorrow. Xianxia had just recovered a little of his cultivation when he was forced by Yunjioge to eavesdrop. It seems that the true identity of this rebel army leader is not simple. He was even able to hook up with the black-robed emissary who is in the middle stage of foundation establishment. The black-robed envoy that Yunjioge had seen before was only at the second level of the qi refining stage. He must have a high status in the intermediate foundation establishment stage. These are none of your business. Quickly lie down. I'll help you unblock your meridians and see if I can suppress the poison. Compared to these, Xianxia was more worried about Yunjioge's health. Okay. Yunjioge quickly lay down. A moment later, a familiar aura entered her meridians from the mark. After circulating for a while, it returned to her dantian. Although the chaotic toxins did not disappear, the spiritual energy in her dantian finally came out a little, and she could finally open the storage bag. Yunjioge took out a bottle of spirit-strengthening pills from the magical bottomless bag and swallowed a whole bottle. The spiritual energy in her elixir field grew a lot stronger. At the very least, she could control a wicked blade to fly. Don't take out the evil blade so easily to avoid arousing suspicion. Didn't you concoct a lot of knockout pills and poison pills before? Just use those to protect yourself. Xianxia said. All right. Yunjioge took out the knockout pills and poison pills and hid them well. She then asked Xianxia, do you want to take some spiritual pills to replenish your energy? Your spiritual pills are useless to me. You'll be doing me a great favor if you rest well. As long as Xianxia recuperated well in the mark, the recovery effect would not be worse than taking a spiritual pill. Okay, then I'll sleep. Yunjioge was indeed tired and she fell asleep quickly. Early the next morning, Yunjioge was arranged to sit in a low-key carriage, separated from the villagers of Xiaogao village. In addition to the silent coachman, there was a short, chubby elderly lady with gray skin who was dressed very well. Her cultivation was at the third level of the qi refining stage. The chubby elderly lady's eyes were not big, but they were very sharp. Ordinary people would not dare to look at them directly. Unfortunately, Yunjioge was not an ordinary person, so she asked calmly, You must be the elderly lady sent by the leader to serve me. The word serve made the chubby elderly lady's eyelids twitch, but she still replied respectfully, My surname is Wang. You can call me Elderly Lady Wang. Elderly Lady Wang, Thank you for taking care of me along the way. Yunjioga smiled faintly. She had recovered some of her cultivation, and she was not really going to enter the palace to sacrifice herself, so she did not think much of elderly Lady Wang. Elderly Lady Wang had not seen a white-skinned woman like Yunjioga for many years. She originally wanted to show her strength, but now she immediately changed her attitude and tried to please her. It turned out that the leader had arranged a fake identity for Yunjioga. She was a noble lady from a small city with the surname Yun, and was specially sent to the palace in exchange for glory and wealth. Miss Yun, the great Zhou dynasty has not seen a white-skinned noble lady like you for a long time. You will definitely be appreciated by the emperor this time. Elderly Lady Wang smiled flatteringly. What kind of person is the current emperor? Yunjioga asked curiously. Elderly Lady Wang laughed bitterly and said, people of our status are not qualified to meet the emperor. In fact, the great Zhou dynasty's emperor, who was obsessed with white-skinned noble ladies, rarely appeared in front of people. Even when he appeared, he wore a black mask. Even the imperial court officials did not know what he looked like. A mask again? Yunjioga remembered the bronze mask worn by the leader. It seemed that this was a local characteristic. Elderly Lady Wang continued to talk about some precautions when entering the palace. There weren't too many rules in the palace. The only thing one had to pay attention to was not to be curious and not to walk around carelessly in the palace. As for the rest of the clothing, food, housing and transportation, they were very casual, unlike the human race who had rules for eating, dressing and traveling. Yunjioga fell asleep with elderly Lady Wang's nagging. She arrived at the capital the next afternoon. The capital here was very prosperous. There were many shops and people came and went. Most of the well-dressed people had light gray skin, but all of them were wearing makeup. It was indescribably strange. Although Yunjioga was a white-skinned person, she could not enter the palace directly. She had to report to the camp of the black-robed messenger. The leader of the black-robed messenger was an old man with graying temples who was at the 12th level of the qi refining stage. When he saw Yunjioga, his eyes lit up as if he had seen a treasure. He said in disbelief, "Such a good seed." After that, he wanted to pull her sleeve to see if she was really a white-skinned person. Presumptuous. Yunjioga avoided the black-robed messenger and said to elderly Lady Wang in displeasure, "Why did you send me to such a strange place? I didn't expect it to be like this. Please forgive me, young Mississippi." Elderly Lady Wang quickly begged for mercy. Then she turned to the black-robed messenger and scolded him rudely, "How dare you offend a noble lady? Do you believe that I won't report this and skin you alive?" Chapter 411. Old slave, how dare you be so impudent in front of me? Do you want to die? The black-robed leader's face was dark. He had relied on killing and robbing to obtain the white-skinned people, so he was used to being unreasonable in front of them. This was the first time he had met someone who was even more unreasonable than him. "I think you're the one who doesn't want to live. It's because of your villain's misdeeds that there are fewer and fewer fair-skinned nobles. You should be thrown into prison." Mammy Wang scolded with her hands on her hips. "Men, take her down." The black-robed leader wasn't a pushover either. He immediately ordered his soldiers to take down Granny Wang so that he could make an example of Yunjioga. "Let's see who dares touch her." Yunjioga took a step forward and stood in front of Granny Wang. He was so domineering that none of the soldiers dared to approach. "How dare you? Don't think that I'm afraid of you just because you're a white-skinned person. If you don't move, I'll capture you as well." A fierce light flashed in the black-robed envoy's eyes. Although this seed was very rare, she was too unruly. If she really became the leader, the black-robed envoy group would have a hard time dealing with her. After all, searching for the white-skinned people was a good job. Every time they went on a business trip, they could earn quite a bit of money. How could they let someone ruin it? The soldiers had done many bad things with the black-robed envoy, so they didn't dare disobey their leader's orders. They immediately raised their blades and approached Yunjioga. Yunjioga placed his hand on his waist and was about to sprinkle the knockout drug when he heard Granny Wang suddenly shout, "Murder! The black-robed envoy wants to kill the white-skinned nobles." "Old slave, shout all you want. Let's see who dares to interfere," the black-robed leader said fiercely. Unexpectedly, just as he finished speaking, there was a commotion at the camp's entrance. A tall and mighty man in golden armor with a dark gray face rushed in with a group of soldiers. They immediately took down the soldiers who were threatening Yunjioga. Your Highness, this is the black-robed envoy's camp. Why are you charging in with your soldiers? Are you trying to rebel? The black-robed leader roared angrily. Imperial brother ordered you to come out and find the white-skinned nobles, but you disobeyed on the surface. You even want to kill the nobles. The man called War King waved his hand and ordered the soldiers behind him, arrest these traitors for me. I'm loyal to His Majesty. You can't slander me. The black-robed leader panicked. Unfortunately, he was taken down before he could say anything. Seeing that the situation was not good, the other soldiers immediately threw away the swords in their hands and surrendered. At this moment, Xianxia's voice suddenly rang out in Yunjioga's ears. This war king is the leader of the revolutionary army. Him? Yunjioga raised his brows. He couldn't help but carefully size up this war king. He was extremely tall, at least 8 feet tall. His skin was dark gray and shone with a metallic luster. His lips were also very dark. However, his eyes were not red. Instead, they were black and white, emitting a cold and murderous light. In this place where white skin was considered beautiful, War King's skin was obviously looked down upon. It was no wonder that the black-robed leader wasn't afraid of him. The War King noticed that Yunjioga was scrutinizing him. A stiff smile appeared on his cold and stiff face as he said, I apologize for startling the noble one. It is this humble king's negligence. Your Highness, War King is too polite. If you hadn't arrived in time, I'm afraid that something bad would have happened to me, Yunjioga replied politely. Your Highness, this place is far too dangerous. Please arrange for us to enter the palace as soon as possible. Granny Wang said fearfully. Don't worry, noble one. This humble king will definitely arrange for you to enter the palace as soon as possible. Before that, noble one, please stay at this humble king's place for a few days. With that, the War King immediately arranged for people to escort Yunjioga to his War King's palace. Today's show was clearly arranged by the War King. Be careful. Don't be betrayed by him. Xianxia's tone became much more serious. We still don't know who's being betrayed. Yunjioga wasn't worried. After all, they were just using each other. She knew everything about the War King, but he knew nothing about her. In the end, she was still better. The War King didn't return to the War King's palace. Instead, he secretly went to a remote residence. The white-masked black-robed envoy was already waiting there. That Lady Yun is quite something. Looks like we can continue with our plan. The War King was very satisfied with Yunjioga. She was courageous, knowledgeable, and charismatic. He was a talent. All right, I'll arrange it right away. The white-masked man nodded immediately. Then he discussed with the War King what to do next. Although their conversation was secretive, it didn't escape Xianxia's ears. The War King said to encourage the people to re-establish their respect for the white-skinned noble one. Then he suggested that the emperor make you his empress. The dog emperor agreed. As soon as you enter the palace, he'll prepare for the empress conferring ceremony, Xianxia said through clenched teeth. Letting Yunjioga enter the palace to look for clues was one thing, but conferring the empress was another. Even if his woman was acting, she couldn't marry someone else and become the empress. It seemed like he had to hurry up and recover. It would be best if he killed the dog emperor as soon as he saw him, lest he set his sights on Xiaojioga. Will the dog emperor appear? What level of cultivation do you think he'll have? Yunjioga was a little worried. The War King was a foundation establishment cultivator, and the mysterious black-robed man was a mid-stage foundation establishment cultivator. The dog emperor behind the scenes should have a higher cultivation than them. The highest he can go is golden core. It won't be any harder than the flying corpses, Xianxia comforted Yunjioga. Don't mention the flying corpses. Yunjioga's head hurt just thinking about it. However, what made her head hurt even more was that according to her current progress, she probably wouldn't make it back to the Fiend Corpse Mystic Land. Don't worry. I've calculated it. Time here is slower than outside. We can still make it if we leave in a month. Xianxia realized that the time here was very strange. It was probably affected by the killing intent. A month is not a problem. Yunjioga finally relaxed and focused on waiting to enter the palace. The War King didn't make her wait too long. The next afternoon, the palace sent someone to pick her up. She immediately moved into the Chuxiu Palace that represented the position of the Empress. In the luxurious Chuxiu Palace, Eunuch Li, the head of the inner palace, had a thick layer of makeup on his face. Behind him was a group of light gray palace maids and eunuchs. They stood respectfully in front of Yunjioga. There should be many concubines in the palace. Why haven't they come to see me? Are they looking down on me? Yunjioga sat on the high seat with a calm expression. She didn't show any emotions on her face. Master, you've misunderstood. The concubines who entered the palace previously don't live in the back palace, Eunuch Li hurriedly said. So, I'm the only one in the back palace? Yunjioga raised her brows. The back palace needed a group of concubines to support it. Now that she was the only one placed here, it was too strange. It seemed like she had to find the white-skinned women as soon as possible to understand the secret of this palace. Chapter 4:12. Master, please calm down. This is His Majesty's will. I don't dare to speculate. Eunuch Li said in fear and trepidation. All right, I'm a little tired. You can all leave. Yunjioga couldn't get anything out of Eunuch Li, so she waved her hand to let them leave. Miss, we haven't started talking about the rules of the palace. Eunuch Li looked at Yunjioga carefully. He had been the head eunuch of the harem for more than 20 years and had seen countless white-skinned women. However, this was the first time he saw a white-skinned noble with such a strong aura as Yunjioga. He always unconsciously bowed and groveled in front of her, as if he was seeing the emperor. Isn't it just being obedient and not going out? Don't worry, I won't leave Chuxiu Palace before His Majesty summons me. Yunjioga said impatiently. Since you know what to do, I won't say anything more. The rules of the palace are that no one can leave without permission after dark. If you need anything, please bear with it and send someone to inform me the next day. Eunuch Li couldn't help but mention. Eunuch Li, don't worry. I understand these rules. I will never let anyone leave the palace at night. Yunjioga was so resolute that no one dared to question her. In that case, I'll leave first. Eunuch Li saw that Yunjioga was a sensible person, so he didn't stay and annoy her. However, when he left behind 4 senior palace maids, 8 junior palace maids, and 6 eunuchs to serve Yunjioga. After Yunjioga handed these people over to Granny Wang, she went to the inner hall to rest. Granny Wang was very excited when she saw that Yunjioga trusted her so much. She immediately started to arrange everything in Chuxiu Palace. In the dead of night, the junior palace maid on night duty in Chuxiu Palace quietly yawned. She was immediately pinched by the older palace maid and warned her with a look to wake up. The junior palace maid shrunk her shoulders and immediately perked up, waiting for the noble sleeping in the inner hall to summon her. In the inner hall, Yunjioga, who was sleeping soundly, slowly opened her eyes. She moved her fingers slightly and a faint green smoke floated out. The 2 palace maids guarding outside yawned heavily and slowly closed their eyes. Even the eunuchs in the side hall fell into a deep sleep. Yunjioga stood up, took out a black robe from his storage pouch and put it on. Then he silently left Chuxiu Palace. It was quiet outside. There were only a few red lanterns lit up in the dark imperial palace. There was no sign of human activity. Head east. I suspect that the white-skinned women are locked inside the tower. Zhishang had already figured out the situation in the palace before Yunjioga entered the palace. Yunjioga looked up and saw an 8-story pagoda in the east. Its collapsed body was surrounded by gray smoke and it looked very strange. It was hard to imagine that this was where the former concubines lived. Don't look anymore. Come back as soon as possible. Zhishang urged. The effect of the sleeping gas was limited. If they didn't return in time, they would be exposed. Yunjioga hurriedly retracted his gaze and followed the shadows in the corner of the wall towards the tall tower. Wait there, guards. Hide to the right. Zhishang stopped Yunjioga in time. Yunjioga stuck close to the cold wall and looked at the patrolling guards with spears in their hands. These guards all had black skin and their eyes were dull. Although they wore thick armor, they walked silently like ghosts. Yunjioga thought to himself. No wonder the rules of the palace forbade them from going out. It would be strange if normal people didn't die from fear after seeing this strange and scary mirror image. These guards are all fiend corpses. Be careful. Zhishang's voice was serious. He had suspected that this place was related to the fiend corpse secret territory. Now that he saw these guards he was sure. What level are these fiend corpses? Yunjioga's heart shuddered. He couldn't help but think of the brutal battle in the fiend corpse secret territory. These are just normal fiend corpses. Don't worry. Keep going. Zishang's voice was hurried. He also felt that things were getting worse. He had to take Xiao Jioga away from this place as soon as possible. Yun Jioga avoided the patrolling guards. After a few turns he finally arrived at the foot of the tall tower. The tall tower was heavily guarded. There were fiend corpses patrolling everywhere. Don't be afraid. These low-level fiend corpses can't see through your invisibility. Just go to the left. Zishang immediately found the patrolling guards' blind spots. Yun Jioga followed the small path to the tall tower from the left. When she got closer she smelled the pungent stench of blood coming from the tall tower. She could even see black and red clouds floating inside. It was very similar to the fiend corpse secret territory. Could the clue to leave this place be inside? Yun Jioga was excited. She was about to walk into the tall tower's entrance. Suddenly, a slender palm covered her mouth and dragged her outside. Yun Jioga instinctively turned around with her elbow. She felt something soft. It was a woman. It's me. A familiar sweet voice rang in Yun Jioga's ears. It was Yusha's voice. Yun Jioga stopped resisting and left the tall tower with Yusha obediently. The hand on her mouth finally let go. Yun Jioga turned around and saw Yusha standing behind her in her maid's attire. Her skin was light gray, her eyes were slightly red and her lips were light purple. She looked exactly like the gray-skinned man. Yun Jioga was about to ask but Yusha made a shushing gesture. This isn't the place to talk. Follow me. After that she led Yun Jioga away from the patrolling guards and left the tall tower. They came to a pear garden not far from Chushio Palace. The white spirit pear blossoms shone faintly in the night. Unfortunately the entire pear garden was empty. No one dared to come out and admire it. All right, we can talk here. Yusha looked around and finally breathed a sigh of relief. Yusha, why are you here? And why are you a gray-skinned man? Yun Jioga asked quickly. I was severely injured when I fell down with you guys. My skin turned light gray after I absorbed the malevolent energy here. I looked everywhere for you but couldn't find any clues. I guessed you'd come to the Imperial Palace so I snuck in. When Yusha heard that a white-skinned nobleman was living in Chushio Palace today, she had a premonition. However, she couldn't go in during the day so she could only sneak out at night. Coincidentally, she bumped into Yun Jioga who went to the tall tower to investigate. What clues did you find in the Imperial Palace? Why didn't you let me enter the tall tower? Yun Jioga asked. The white-skinned women that the great Zhou Emperor took in were all kept in that tall tower. A foundation-building assassin snuck in and never came out. It's definitely not as simple as it looks. Yusha's expression was solemn. She had been observing the Imperial Palace for a long time. She realized that the Emperor would send a batch of gray-skinned men to serve him every once in a while, but none of them ever came out alive. Chapter 413. No wonder the guards outside are so weak. Yun Jioga felt that something was wrong but she didn't take it to heart because she looked down on these normal guards. Oh yeah, where's Zishang? He's not dead, is he? Yusha asked with a tinge of joy in her voice. He's fine. It's just that it's not convenient for him to show himself now. Yun Jioga glared at Yusha. Zishang sneaked his divine consciousness into the tower when she approached it. He probably hadn't regained his senses yet. Oh, alright. Tell him to pay more attention to the murderous aura in this palace. I have a feeling that there's a formation hidden in this palace but I just can't figure it out. Although Yusha's injuries were healed, her cultivation level was suppressed. Plus, she wasn't as knowledgeable about runes as Zishang so she couldn't find any clues. I understand. Yun Jioga nodded solemnly. Before she figured out the situation in the tower she wasn't going to take the risk. Also, I heard that His Majesty is going to Chushio Palace to see you tomorrow. Be careful and don't expose yourself. It's best if you hide your cultivation level, Yusha said. I haven't recovered my cultivation level so it's easy to hide it. Don't you find it weird to see me like this? Yun Jioga was a girl now. Most people would find it weird when they saw someone they were familiar with suddenly changing from a man to a woman. Not bad. You're beautiful. Yusha felt it was a pity that she couldn't leave this girl's body for a while. She wondered if Lady Goddess was willing to play with her. People from the mixed evil sect were really brave. Did Yunjioge give in? Seeing that it was getting late, she said to Yusha, "It's getting late. I'm going back to Chushio Palace." "All right. I'll look for you if something happens." Although Yusha was reluctant to leave, she still sent Yunjioge back. Yunjioge returned to the inner palace of Chushio Palace quietly. After she laid down, she rubbed her fingers together and a white smoke floated out. The two sleeping maids' breathing quickened. "Someone, I want some water." Yunjioge stood up and called out. The two palace maids woke up instantly. When they realized that they had accidentally fallen asleep, the younger palace maid was a little flustered. The elder palace maid was still very calm. She walked into the inner hall unhurriedly and asked Yunjioge, "Miss, do you want to drink hot or lukewarm?" "Warm. I don't want tea. I want plain tea." Yunjioge was not used to the tea here. "Yes." A moment later, a cup of warm water was placed in an exquisite white porcelain cup and handed to Yunjioge. Yunjioge took a sip and asked, "What time is it now?" "It's already the hour of the dog. There are still 2 hours before daybreak. If you are hungry, there are snacks and hot porridge in the small kitchen. Would you like to have some?" The first palace maid asked considerately. "No, I'll sleep a little longer. Wake me up at dawn." Yunjioge handed the porcelain cup back to the grand palace maid and lay back on the bed, silently waiting for Zishang to wake up. The grand palace maid bowed and retreated. A moment later, the mark on Yunjioge's arm began to heat up. Zishang's voice rang in her consciousness. "You ran into Yu Shao?" "Yes, she told you to pay more attention to the killing intent in this palace. She said that there was a spirit array hidden in this palace, but she couldn't figure it out," Yunjioge answered honestly. "There is indeed a killing array hidden in this palace. All the killing intent is concentrated in that tall tower. I suspect that there is a teleportation formation in there to return to the Fiend Corp's arcane realm," Zishang said in a low voice. "Suspect? Didn't you send your divine sense into the tall tower?" Yunjioge thought that Zishang had already figured out the situation in the tall tower. "There's something in the tower that's blocking my divine sense. I'm afraid that breaking through by force will attract attention, so I didn't go in." At that time, half of Zishang's attention was on Yunjioge, so he didn't dare to break through by force. "Then I'll find another chance in the future." "Oh right, Yusha said that the emperor will come to see me after daybreak. When that time comes, we'll take a good look at his cultivation level." Yunjioge was no longer in a hurry. Since they had confirmed that the teleportation formation to return was inside the tall tower, they would find another chance to go in. "Then I'll help you hide your cultivation level so that the emperor won't suspect anything." Zishang also felt that under the current situation, it was better for Yunjioge to disguise herself as a local. Fortunately, the meridians in Yunjioge's body were in a mess, so hiding that bit of spiritual power was not a problem. By the time Zishang finished everything, it was already dawn. The grand palace maid's gentle voice came from outside the door. "Miss, are you up? Come in." Yunjioge stood up and said. After the grand palace maid pushed open the door to the inner palace softly, 7 palace maids followed behind her and entered in a line. Each of them was holding a round plate in their hands. On the plate there were exquisite head accessories, clothes and shoes. They were no different from the ordinary royal family outside. "Miss, Uniquely just sent a message from His Majesty saying that he wants to have lunch with you. These clothes and accessories are also given by His Majesty. This servant will help you change into them." The grand palace maid's pale gray face revealed a sincere smile. Everyone hoped that the master they served would be loved and respected by the emperor so that they, the palace maids, would be able to eat and drink well. "It's just a lunch, not a conferment. Why do you have to dress so extravagantly? Ordinary will do." Yunjioge glanced at the red gemstone noodles that weighed at least a dozen catties and rejected them decisively. But this was given by His Majesty. The grand palace maid didn't expect Yunjioge to have such a personality and dare to reject His Majesty's gift. "His Majesty didn't specify that I should wear this. Besides, the entire Chushio Palace is a gift from His Majesty. It's the same to wear other clothes." Yunjioge walked straight to the gorgeous wardrobe and picked out the simplest moon-white dress. "Just wear this." "All right." The grand palace maid didn't dare to disobey Yunjioge's order. After helping her change into the dress, She combed her hair into the simplest bun and tied it with a hair tie of the same color. Yunjioge ate her breakfast and waited in Chuxiu Palace for the emperor's arrival. At noon she heard Eunuch Li's shrill voice coming from outside. His Majesty has arrived. Yunjioge walked to the palace gate surrounded by the palace maids and saw a tall, pale and handsome young man dressed in a dragon robe walking toward the palace gate. Yunjioge didn't want to stare at the emperor, so she bowed slightly and asked Zishang in her heart, "How is it? Can you tell what the emperor's cultivation level is?" "No, this emperor looks like an ordinary person. He doesn't have any cultivation level." Zishang's voice was filled with doubt. Logically speaking, this emperor couldn't be an ordinary person if he could make a foundation establishment war monarch so afraid. Could it be that the emperor had concealed his cultivation level, or was the person in front of him not the emperor himself but a substitute? For some reason, Zishang felt that this emperor was somewhat familiar, as if he had seen him somewhere before, but he just couldn't remember. Chapter 4:14. Zishang thought the gray-faced emperor looked familiar, so Yunjioge stole another glance but had no impression of him. The emperor thought Yunjioge was shy and reached out to help her up. "Please rise, beloved." "Beloved." Yunjioge couldn't help but shiver at the way the emperor addressed her. She quickly got up before the emperor's hand could touch her. The emperor didn't think much of it. A gentle smile appeared on his handsome face. "Sorry to keep you waiting, beloved. Serve the meal." "Yes." Eunuch Li responded crisply and called for the palace maids to serve a sumptuous meal. There were all kinds of delicacies. "Sit, beloved," the emperor called out. Yunjioge chose a seat farthest from the emperor and sat down. Eunuch Li and the palace maid waited on them. "Beloved, this ice stew abalone head is not bad. Try it." The emperor smiled and looked at Yunjioge affectionately with his long and narrow eyes, as if he was looking at a treasure. "Thank you, Your Majesty." Yunjioge pretended to be shy and took a small bite of the dish the emperor had ordered, but she couldn't taste anything. After finally finishing the torturous meal, the emperor suggested, "It's a rare spring day. Let me accompany beloved to the imperial garden for a walk." "Thank you, Your Majesty." Yunjioge also wanted to see what the palace looked like during the day. The emperor removed the dragon carriage and only left Eunuch Li and the palace maid to serve him. Then he took Yunjioge to the imperial garden. The palace was bright and beautiful during the day, and the air was filled with the fragrance of flowers. The huge imperial garden was filled with all kinds of beautiful spirit flowers, and colorful butterflies danced among them. The patrolling guards were in high spirits. When they saw the dragon rack from afar, they lowered their heads and bowed to the side. Everything looked so normal. Yunjioge stopped in front of a cluster of red peonies and glanced to the east. She didn't see the eye-catching tower. The palace has a baneful aura array. Those active in the day are the living and those active at night are the dead. The tower only appears at night. Zishang's voice sounded in Yunjioge's mind. "According to what you're saying, the white-skinned women in the tower are all dead?" Yunjioge was shocked. "It's very likely," Zishang said. Yunjioge could not help but frown, his hand unconsciously stroking the cluster of red peonies. "What's wrong, beloved? Don't you like these peonies?" The emperor's deep voice rang in Yunjioge's ear. Yunjioge turned her head and found that the emperor had walked up to her side at some point. His tall body loomed over her, and the corners of his sexy lips carried a faint teasing smile. His slender palm gently covered Yunjioge's white and tender hand. "He dared to touch you." Zishang was furious. He wanted to jump out of the seal and kick the emperor away. "Calm down, it's just touching your hand." Yunjioge was now a beloved concubine, so it was normal for her to be touched. "Calm down, my ass. Hurry up and pull your hand back." Zishang was even angrier now. All right, I'll do it." Yunjioge silently rolled her eyes, then shyly tried to pull her hand out of the emperor's hand, but he held it even harder. "My beloved concubine, do you know that my heart is with you?" The emperor looked at Yunjioge affectionately. Yunjioge looked at the emperor's brown and slightly red eyes. She could clearly see her fair, delicate and beautiful face with a bit of corpse poison reflected in them. To be honest, if Yunjioge was an ordinary white-skinned native, she would definitely be bewitched by such a tall, handsome and expressive emperor. Unfortunately, Yunjioge wasn't a pure white-skinned little white and wouldn't fall for it. The emperor probably noticed that Yun Jioge wasn't moved, so he suddenly stretched out his right hand and wrapped it around her waist, imprisoning her in his arms. His brown and red eyes began to slowly move. Yun Jioge originally wanted to struggle, but she was suddenly entranced by the light emitted by those eyes and fell into a trance. Don't be in a daze, calm your mind. Zhishang's hurried voice rang out in Yun Jioge's mind. Yun Jioge also wanted to calm down, but the problem was that the emperor's eyes seemed to have a magical power that pulled at her. She could see the sounds of laughter and beautiful white-skinned women waving at her. Little sister, come, come. Yun Jioge couldn't help but smile. She felt that this was where she should be, so she couldn't help but float towards it. But soon the mark on her arm began to heat up, pulling her mind back a little. Just like that, Yun Jioge's forehead was covered in sweat. The emperor also frowned. No woman had ever been able to resist his demon eye. Could this white-skinned woman have some kind of innate divine ability? It's interesting. As expected of the mother seed he favored. I have to take her down as soon as possible. The emperor's heart thumped and the light in his eyes spun even faster. The black and red demonic light pierced straight into Yun Jioge's eyes. Yun Jioge's body trembled and a look of terror appeared on her face. The white-skinned women who had been laughing and chatting with her just a moment ago suddenly turned into terrifying skeletons, dragging her down to hell with them. Zhishang panicked and was just about to throw caution to the wind and pull Yun Jioge out. At that moment a loud noise rang out. Your Highness, it's not convenient for His Majesty to summon you now. Please come back later. Eunuch Li hurriedly stopped them. His Majesty was currently intimate with the newcomer, Miss Yun. Who would dare to go over now and court death? How dare you? I have something urgent to discuss with my royal brother. Can you afford to pay for it if something important is delayed? War King's furious voice boomed out like thunder. Yun Jioge immediately came to her senses. She hurriedly pushed the emperor away and stumbled a few steps back. The emperor's confusion failed. His handsome face kept trembling as if it was about to split open. However, he quickly regained his calm and dignified demeanor. He turned to Eunuch Li and said, "Let my royal brother come over." Yes. Eunuch Li retreated to the side with his men. War King strode into the imperial garden. He glanced around and saw Yun Jioge standing to the side with a pale face. She looked like she had seen a ghost in broad daylight. My beloved concubine is not feeling well. She should go back and rest. Eunuch Li, escort her back, the emperor ordered calmly. Yes. Eunuch Li bowed and walked to Yun Jioge's side. He smiled ingratiatingly. Master, this way please. Yun Jioge had already snapped out of her daze. She forced a smile and bowed to the emperor before following Eunuch Li back to Chuxiu Palace. Eunuch Li and the palace maid kept praising Yun Jioge's capability along the way. They said that there had never been a noble who could make His Majesty care so much. Yun Jioge did not hear a single word. She was still thinking about the skeletons of a beautiful woman she had seen in the emperor's eyes. That demonic power was too terrifying. How could someone without cultivation be able to use it? This emperor has at least a mid-stage golden core cultivation. We're in trouble this time, Zhishang said in a low voice. Chapter 4:15. Middle Stage Golden Core. Yun Jioge's scalp went numb when she heard that. Zhishang had yet to recover from his serious injuries. If he, a mere chi refining stage cultivator, would fall into the hands of a golden core cultivator and be easily crushed? Although this emperor has the cultivation base of a mid-stage golden core cultivator, there's a strange force inside him that's suppressing him. As long as we can find the source of this force, we'll be able to find a way to deal with him, Zhishang continued. Looks like we'll have to ask Granny Wang to talk to Warlord. Yun Jioge did not have many allies here. Warlord was one of them. No need for that, Granny Wang. Ask Yusha to look for him. Zhishang decided to find something for Yusha to do. But I don't know where to look for her. Last night, Yusha said that she would contact her if anything happened. She did not mention where she was. Don't worry. She'll find her own way. With Yusha's wild ambition, how could she let go of a chance to be alone with Yun Jioge? She would definitely find a chance to sneak in. Zhishang's words were quickly verified. When Yun Jioge returned to Chuxiu Palace, she noticed that the palace maid guarding the door had changed. Yusha was dressed in a red palace dress. She stood at the door obediently to welcome them back. Jioge glanced at her indifferently. She did not say anything and walked into the inner hall quietly. I'm tired. You can all leave. Jioge waved her hand. After sending Eunuch Li and the palace maid away, she leaned on the soft couch. A moment later, Wuxia walked in respectfully with a cup of hot tea in her hands. Miss, please have some tea. Jioge could not help but look left and right. Don't worry. No one followed me in. Granny Wang is fighting with them outside. Wuxia smiled as she placed the teacup on Jioge's rosewood tea table. She then knelt beside Jioge's feet and massaged her legs like a palace maid. Xianxia said that Grey Emperor has the cultivation base of a mid-stage golden core cultivator. I was almost charmed by him in the Imperial Garden. Jioge took a sip of tea and sorted out her thoughts. Then she recounted what happened earlier. He touched your hand and hugged your waist? Wuxia narrowed her eyes and tightened her grip on Jioge's legs. That's not the point. Jioge hurriedly slapped Wuxia's heavy hand away and pointed at her forehead as he said solemnly, the most important thing is to quickly figure out this emperor's background and the way to deal with him. Later you'll go to the Imperial Garden and keep watch. We'll talk after we pull Battle King's strings. If they could not kill the emperor, it would be wishful thinking to enter the tower. I understand. I'll go now. Wuxia put away his jealousy and stood up to leave. Jioge waited for Wuxia to leave before he said to Xianxia, why don't I release my spiritual power? Otherwise, if that dog of an emperor were to come after me again, I wouldn't even have the ability to resist. If the dog emperor knew that you have spiritual power, he wouldn't just use his demon eye to deal with you. Xianxia could sense that the dog emperor had other plans for Jioge, and this plan was most likely related to the tower. This was also the reason why he had not fallen out with the dog emperor just now. This won't do, that won't do. Am I supposed to just wait for death? Jioge hated the feeling of being restricted. You can recover your spiritual power slowly. When you have time you can contact the cute little baby. If you can activate the demonic tripod, then we'll have more confidence, Xianxia said in a low voice. All right. Jioge laid back on the bed helplessly and started calling the cute little baby. She tried to contact the demonic tripod with her divine consciousness. However, she did not know where the demonic tripod had gone. No matter how she tried, it was useless. Just as she was about to give up, a gray dot suddenly flew towards her. It gradually turned into a gray little person. The little person's face was exactly the same as Jioge's. It was the grass soul seed that had devoured the flying corpse. Master, I finally found you. The moment the grass soul seed saw Jioge, it began to weep. You didn't die? Jioge was shocked. She thought that the grass soul seed had failed to devour and exploded with the flying corpse. Master, I had already devoured it. However, there was a strange divine consciousness restriction in the flying corpse. Once it was subdued, it would explode, the grass soul seed quickly explained, afraid that its master would think it was useless. There's a spiritual consciousness restriction in the flying corpse. Who did it? This was completely out of Jioge's expectations. I don't know. After the flying corpse exploded, I was locked here. There's a monster that wants to eat me. Master, hurry and save me. Speaking of the monster, the grass soul seed's little body kept trembling. It was clearly very afraid. Where are you locked? What monster wants to eat you? Jioge quickly asked. She had worked so hard to cultivate the grass soul seed. How could she let the monster eat it? I'm in a dark place. The monster is black. I don't know what it is. Oh no, the monster is here. I have to go. Master, you have to save me. With that, the grass soul seed disappeared without a trace. Wait. Jioge wanted to grab the grass soul seed and ask more. When she opened her eyes, she saw a gorgeous curtain. Miss, what's wrong? The palace maid lifted the curtain, her face full of worry. It's nothing. It's just a little nightmarish. Jioge touched her forehead, which was covered in cold sweat. Should we get the imperial physician to take a look? The palace maid poured some hot water on a copper plate and wrung a clean handkerchief to wipe Jioge's face. There's no need. By the way, where's Granny Wang? Jioge asked again. Although she had already sent Wuxia to look for Warlord, it was safer to have one more person to contact. His Majesty said that Granny Wang is old and not suitable to serve you, so he sent her back to her hometown. The palace maid lowered her eyes, took the handkerchief from Yunjioga's hand and placed it in the basin. Was he trying to isolate her? Yunjioga was not surprised. She replied, "His Majesty is really considerate. By the way, what time is it now? Where is His Majesty?" "It's the hour of the evening now. It'll be dark in 2 hours. His Majesty is still in the imperial study discussing important matters with His Highness Warlord. He wants you to have an early meal tonight and have a good rest," the palace maid said softly. "I understand." Yunjioga nodded. It seemed that Wuxia would have to wait until tomorrow to send news back. "Miss, do you still want to sleep?" the palace maid asked softly. "I'm not sleeping anymore. Help me up." Yunjioga came to the outer hall and ate a few snacks. She pretended to be chatting and asked the palace maid, "I still don't know your name." Uniquely had introduced her yesterday, but Yunjioga did not pay much attention to it. "My name is Bao, the palace maid replied respectfully. "How long have you been in the palace?" Yunjioga took another sip of tea. "I've been in the palace for 8 years. I've always been working in Chuxiu Palace. No noble has ever lived in Chuxiu Palace before. Monsieur the First." Bao knew that Yunjioga wanted to find out more information, so she took the initiative to tell her everything she knew. "Do you know where those white-skinned women went?" Yunjioga put down the teacup. She had been in the palace for 8 years, so she should have some information. Chapter 416. "I don't know." Bao shook her head. Although she had worked in the palace for 8 years, her range of activities was limited to Chuxiu Palace. She was not clear about other places. "I see." Yunjioga's disappointment was evident in his words. He looked as if she didn't know anything after working for 8 years. Bao began to feel uneasy. Nurse Wang had just been sent away and it was time for her to perform. If she disappointed her master now, it would be difficult to gain trust in the future. Bao thought about it and whispered, "I have heard a rumor about the white-skinned noblewoman, but I don't know if it is true or not. Anyway, tell me." Yunjioga's eyes lit up and he immediately cheered up. "I heard that after the white-skinned noblewoman slept with Her Majesty, she would be sent to another place to prepare for pregnancy. So there is no one in the harem now," Bao said in a low voice. "Prepare for pregnancy? Did they win the bid in one go?" Yunjioga asked in surprise. Even a sharpshooter couldn't be so accurate. "Miss." Bao's face turned red. How could a virgin say such a shameful topic? "I'm serious. Did those white-skinned noblewomen only sleep with Her Majesty once? This is a very important question." Yunjioga's face was serious. In the cultivation world, the higher one's cultivation, the harder it was to get pregnant. This was an unchanging truth. There was no reason for this gray-faced golden elixir emperor to be an exception. "I only heard about it." Bao looked embarrassed. She had never had a white-skinned noblewoman live in Chuxiu Palace. How could she know about these boudoir secrets? Did any white-skinned noblewoman give birth to a dragon son? Yunjioga asked again. No. Bao had been in the palace for 8 years. Not to mention a dragon son, she hadn't even seen a dragon girl. She was sent away when she was pregnant, but she couldn't give birth to a single one. This is too strange. Yunjioga thought of the evil spirit tower that would only appear at night and the withered beauty in the eyes of the gray-faced emperor. He couldn't help but feel heavy. "Miss, this is all nonsense. Please don't take it seriously. Otherwise this servant will definitely die." Bauer panicked a little. If Uniquely knew that she was gossiping here, it would be troublesome. "What are you afraid of? You can tell me and I will listen. No one else will know. Hey, it is getting late. Go and see if dinner is ready. I will go rest in the inner hall." Yunjioga told Bao a few things and then he got up and walked into the inner hall. Bao saw that Yunjioga's expression was calm and didn't look like he was frightened, so she left with peace of mind. There's no smoke without fire. This palace maid should be telling the truth, Xianxia said in Yunjioga's mind. A golden core cultivator won the bid on the first try. How is that possible? Those white-skinned women are not getting pregnant normally. There must be something strange about this. However, this mystery could only be solved by seeing the white-skinned women. Let's put that aside for now. Have you contacted the demonic tripod? Zhishang was more concerned about this. I didn't contact the demonic tripod. Instead, I encountered the grass soul seed. Yunjioge told him about the grass soul seed. The bloody orb self-destructed and a black monster? Zhishang had a vague guess, but he couldn't connect it. Do you think that the grass soul seed is locked in the tower? Yunjioge thought about it, and the mysterious tower was the most likely place to be. Probably. Next time you see it, ask about the situation in the tower. They had to enter the tower eventually. The more detailed the information, the better. Okay, I will contact it again tonight. Yunjioge was about to discuss with Zhishang when Bao Er's voice sounded outside. Miss, His Majesty has sent a bunch of gifts. Do you want to come out and see? No, just keep them. Yunjioge wasn't in the mood to deal with these people. After Bao went out to reward the eunuchs, she walked back into the inner hall. With a complicated expression, she said to Yunjioge, Miss, Eunuchly said that His Majesty lit your lantern tonight. He wants you to prepare and sleep with him tonight. Sleep with him? Yunjioge's eyes almost fell out of their sockets. This gray-faced emperor was serious and he wanted her to sleep with him? Miss, this is something that will happen sooner or later. Don't think too much about it. Bao was regretting what she had said. What if she was afraid and didn't want to sleep with him? The emperor might not do anything to her in his rage, but servants like her wouldn't be able to escape death. I understand. You can go. You don't have to prepare dinner. I have no appetite, Yunjioge said weakly. Bao wanted to say something, but when she saw that Yunjioge didn't want to talk about it, she left. Go find Yusha. We will go to the high tower tonight. Zhishang immediately made a decision. Even if it cost her cultivation, she would take Yunjioge away from this place. She didn't want the gray-faced emperor to think about her. There's no hurry. Didn't you say that the gray-faced emperor is being suppressed by a mysterious force? Let's wait for news from Warlord first. Also, judging from the emperor's attitude, if I don't obey, he won't do anything rash. If he did, then she would take his life while he was distracted. No, that's too dangerous. Zhishang seemed to have thought of something and suddenly said, Call Yusha over. She should be guarding Warlord at the entrance of the Imperial study right now. How do I call her? Yunjioge was helpless. She couldn't go out in front of Bao and the palace maids, could she? Use your divine sense to call her. She'll be able to sense it. Zhishang knew that Yusha had secretly done something to Yunjioge's divine sense, but he had turned a blind eye to it. All right, I'll try. Yunjioge closed her eyes and was about to summon Yusha using her divine sense when she heard her voice by her ear. Jioge, are you calling me? When did you come in? Yunjioge was shocked. When she opened her eyes, she saw Yusha standing in front of her with a golden red muslin robe. I heard that the gray-faced emperor wanted you to serve him in bed, so I rushed over. Yusha placed the muslin robe next to Yunjioge and asked through gritted teeth, What did Zhishang say? That gray-faced emperor had taken advantage of Lady Goddess in the Imperial Garden. Now he wanted Lady Goddess to serve him in bed. He deserved to die. He said he wanted to go to the tower tonight, but I thought it was too dangerous, so I didn't agree. Help me talk to him. Yunjioge didn't think that the gray-faced emperor could do anything to her. Tell him to grab the mark. I'll talk to him, Zhishang ordered hastily. Oh. Yunjioge rolled up her sleeves and relayed Zhishang's words. Yusha reached out and grabbed the mark on Yunjioge's body. Then she closed her eyes and listened carefully. She didn't know what Yusha said to Zhishang, but the expression on her face changed. She couldn't help but nod and say, I understand. That's what we'll do. Chapter 417. What are you guys talking about? Yunjioge couldn't help but ask. Unfortunately, Zhishang and Yusha ignored her. All right, let's do that. Yusha opened her eyes and asked Yunjioge, Do you still have your disguise? Can you help me whiten my skin? Yes. Whitening her skin was too easy for Yunjioge. She had a beauty pill with her. After consuming it, not only would it whiten her entire body, but it also had a soft glow effect. She made it when she was bored and was going to sell it at Plethora Treasure Tower. After Yusha swallowed the beauty pill, she untied her hair and let it fall behind her head. Then she took Yunjioge's medicine and applied it on her face. In the blink of an eye, she turned into a fair beauty. Why did you disguise yourself as me? Yun Jioga looked at Wuxia, who looked 90% like her. Let's switch. How about I consummate your marriage with Grey Emperor? Wuxia winked. Not only could she protect Yun Jioga's innocence this way, but she could also observe Grey Emperor from a distance. It was perfect. Yun Jioga was dumbstruck. Her mouth was so wide that an egg could be stuffed in it. She knew Wuxia was nice to her, but she didn't think she would be nice enough to replace her. You don't have to worry about her. Demons have no morals. Xianxia couldn't help but complain. Wuxia is a demon? Yun Jioga was even more shocked. Demons and demonic cultivators were two different things. Damn it, what if she accidentally revealed Wuxia's identity? Xianxia thought about it for 2 seconds and decided to expose Wuxia's true colors. Do you remember the devil's head in the ruins? Yes, I do. Yun Jioga nodded. The head was handsome with curly hair and 2 goat horns. That's Wuxia. He's possessing Wuxia now, Xianxia said as he carefully used his divine consciousness to peek at Yun Jioga's thoughts. So, Wuxia is actually a man? Yun Jioga was even more shocked. Then wasn't he disguising himself as Grey Emperor's wife? Since they were gay friends, how could he be her lover in her past life? She was a woman in her past life. Xianxia sensed the chaos in Yun Jioga's heart. Harboring evil intentions, he explained, Wuxia has no integrity at all. Not only does he kill both men and women, but he also has lovers everywhere. He has no bottom line. Everything Xianxia said was the truth. He had absolutely no intention of slandering Wuxia. It was just that he forgot to mention that all those ridiculous things happened before Wuxia hooked up with the goddess. All right. Yun Jioga's mind was in a mess. Although she was touched that Wuxia had risked his life to save her, when she thought of his shameless actions she felt horrified. Wuxia still did not know that he had been betrayed by Xianxia. After disguising himself, he sealed his cultivation and said to Yun Jioga, quickly disguise yourself as me and change into the palace maid's clothes. Yun Jioga absent-mindedly painted herself to look like a gray-skinned man, and then changed into a red palace maid dress? Take this invisibility pill and stay on the side to help me hold the fort later. If anything goes wrong, help me out. Wuxia rubbed his jeweled earring and took out a gray pill. This was the invisibility pill that her family had prepared for her. It was expensive and she only had 3 of them. Yun Jioga took it and sniffed it. After confirming that it was a high-grade invisibility pill, she swallowed it. After Wuxia waited for Yun Jioga to successfully conceal herself, she laid down on the chaise lounge and called for Bao to come in and serve her. Bao thought that Yun Jioga was having dinner, so she brought the little palace maid in to take a look. She found that Wuxia had already changed into a gauze dress and was lying on the chaise lounge, looking completely at her beck and call. Miss, you've thought it through? Bao was surprised and delighted. Go and stand guard at the door later. When the emperor arrives, let him into the inner palace. Wuxia said lazily. Yes. Bao nodded quickly. Although this was a little against the rules, there were no rules in the imperial harem. As long as the emperor did not blame her, it was fine. However, before Bao left, she still led the little palace maids to tidy up the inner palace. The curtains and bedsheets were all changed into a festive bright red. A red carpet was laid on the floor and bright red peonies were placed on the bedside cabinet. The atmosphere of a newlywed immediately became lively. After Bao was done with the decorations, she left with the little palace maids. Are you really going to serve me in bed? Yun Jioga could not help but ask. Jioga, if you can't bear to leave me, I won't go. Wuxia reached out to pull Yun Jioga. Her beautiful eyes were sparkling with a suggestive gleam. You don't have to sacrifice yourself like this for me. Yun Jioga was conflicted. Although demons had no morals, Wuxia was sacrificing himself for her. He could not help but feel uneasy. It's not a sacrifice. I've cultivated the art of plucking before. If I can take this opportunity to absorb more than half of the Grey Emperor's cultivation base, it'll be of great benefit to me. Wuxia was considering this from a strategic point of view. Rolling in the sheets with a man was not a problem for him at all. This body was not his real body anyway. It was fine to just play with it. All right. Since Wuxia had already said so, it would be unreasonable of Yun Jioga to try and stop him. Are you hungry? Do you want to eat something? Wuxia's long black hair fell to the side of her body, revealing her fair and delicate collarbone. Her slender fingers hooked around Yunjioga's palm. She exuded a powerful charm. I'm not hungry. I've eaten an abstinence pill. Yunjioga silently retracted her hand. She thought to herself that when Zishang was able to show himself, she would definitely roll in the sheets with him to set up her correct values. Don't worry. I'll be able to show myself very soon. Zishang chuckled softly. His elegant voice was like a feather caressing the tip of Yunjioga's heart. Yunjioga felt her heart itch. Compared to the seductive Wuxia, she preferred the sultry Zishang. It looked like her values were still very correct. Wan Sha, who was unaware of the situation, was still using Wuxia's body to seduce Yunjioga. There were a few beautiful girls among the lady goddess's lovers back then. There was no reason for him to not be tempted by the current him. Just as the two of them were engaged in a tug-of-war, Bao Er's clear voice rang from outside. Long live the Emperor! Yunjioga quickly hid herself and retreated to the side to avoid attracting the Grey Emperor's attention. The next moment the Grey Emperor strode in from outside. There was a gentle smile on his handsome face, and his entire being exuded a proud aura. Wuxia got up from the imperial concubine's couch and bowed to the ground. Your concubine greets your majesty. My beloved concubine, you may dispense with the formalities. The Grey Emperor held Wuxia's slender arm and pulled her into his arms. He smiled and said, My beloved concubine, you're really lovely today. I'm very happy. Your Majesty, you flatter me. Wuxia lowered her head slightly. The blush on her face spread to her neck. It was an indescribably moving sight. The Grey Emperor's gaze deepened. He smiled ambiguously and said, The night is too short. Let's go to bed. After that, he carried Wuxia in his arms and walked toward the large bed in the inner hall, stepping on the red flower petals that covered the floor. Chapter 418. Yunjioga stood stiffly in the corner as he watched Grey Emperor's dragon robe and Wuxia's red muslin robe on the floor. The two of them were touching each other and rolling around on the bed. Goosebumps rose all over his body and his scalp went numb. Close your eyes if you don't want to look. Don't force yourself. As Zishang spoke, he slowly revealed himself and held Yunjioga's hand. You can show yourself now? Yunjioga looked at Zishang's handsome face and couldn't help but feel excited. Although Zishang was always by his side, there was still a big difference from touching the real person. It can only last for a short while. This short while was a burst of demonic power that he had been accumulating for a long time. It was to prevent Yunjioga from losing control of himself when he saw such an exciting scene. He had to stay by the side and help Yunjioga extinguish the fire when necessary. You don't have to do this. I'm fine. Yunjioga felt the warmth of Zishang's palm and felt sweet inside. He couldn't care less about Wuxia and Grey Emperor anymore. Zishang was about to tease Yunjioga a little more when he saw what was happening with Wuxia. He frowned and looked at the bed in the inner hall. What's wrong? Yunjioga followed Zishang's gaze and looked at the bed in the inner hall. Grey Emperor had gotten up and was standing by the bed. His muscular upper body was bare, but he was still wearing white underwear. Wuxia's clothes were messy as she laid on the bed without any reaction. She seemed to have fainted. Yunjioga was about to go check on her but Zishang stopped him. Don't rush. Let's see how it goes. Yunjioga could only suppress his anxiety and stand beside Zishang, watching Grey Emperor's movements closely. Grey Emperor slowly put on his dragon robe and took out a small grey bell. He shook it and called out, Come in. A tall man with dark grey skin walked in through the door. He was actually a battle king. At this moment the battle king's eyes were dull and lifeless, as if he was a marionette. Grey Emperor took out a black pill the size of a thumb and shook the bell for War King to swallow. Then he told him to get on the bed. Warlord stripped off his clothes with a straight face and pounced on Wuxia, who was lying on the bed in his nakedness. Yunjioga's eyes widened in shock. Could it be that the white-skinned woman hadn't slept with the grey-faced emperor, but had been fooling around with the War King like today? Also, what was that black meatball that Battle King ate just now? It smelled fishy and he wondered if messing around with Wuxia would hurt her. When Yunjioga saw that War King had already begun to tear Wuxia's thin trousers apart, Yunjioga began to panic. He was afraid that Wuxia would be at a disadvantage. Zishang's frown deepened. In the end, with a flick of his finger, a purple mist quietly slipped out. There was a sudden loud noise outside the door, and then there were the screams of the palace maids and eunuchs. Broken jade pavilion has collapsed. The palace of heavenly purity is on fire. On the bed, Warlord, who was pressing down on Yusha's hands and getting ready to raise his spear, immediately stopped what he was doing. A pained and conflicted expression appeared on his face. A look of rage flashed across the handsome face of the gray-faced emperor. Black mist leaked out of his cracked skin, making him look extremely terrifying. He glared fiercely at Warlord and shook the bell in his hand again. Warlord's expression became even more pained, but he stopped moving. The gray-faced emperor knew that he had lost control of Warlord, and forcing him to continue would only make things worse. He could only shake the bell helplessly to let Warlord leave Chuxiu Palace. Without even putting on his clothes, Warlord jumped out of the window with his well-built naked body. Yusha, who was lying on the bed, also happened to wake up at this time. She used the bright red blanket to cover her naked chest, and said to the gray-faced emperor who was standing by the bed in confusion, "Your Majesty, what happened?" "It's nothing. There's a fire outside, so I'll go out and take a look. You can continue to rest." The gray-faced emperor regained his gentle look. After comforting Yusha for a while, he walked out of the inner hall. As soon as the gray-faced emperor left, Yusha's beautiful face darkened. She dragged the bedsheet down and asked Yunjioga, who came up to her, "What happened?" That gray-faced emperor was probably impotent. Halfway through, Warlord came and even gave him a Herculean strength pill. Yunjioga told her what happened in a concise manner. In the end, Yusha asked, "Didn't you feel anything just now?" "When I was rolling on the bed with him, I was accidentally hit by his ice skill. I struggled to break free, and when I opened my eyes, I saw him standing by the bed." Yusha's beautiful brows furrowed tightly. Although she already knew that the gray-faced emperor's ice skill was powerful, it was still difficult for her to avoid it when her cultivation base was sealed. "I wonder if Warlord knows that he's been used as a substitute by the emperor in bed?" Yunjioga recalled Warlord's pained and conflicted look and felt that he should know something. "That's easy. I'll just call him here tomorrow and ask him about it." Yusha's original plan was to feed the tiger with her own body and use it to absorb the gray-faced emperor's cultivation base. Now that the gray-faced emperor was not sleeping with her, she did not want to mess around with Warlord. "We must get this done as soon as possible. I've already alerted the enemy when I tried to save you. The longer we delay, the more disadvantageous it will be for us," Xianxia said with a serious expression. He had placed some gunpowder around Chuxiu Palace and the tower, planning to use it at a critical moment. He had exposed himself in order to save Yusha just now. The gray-faced emperor must have sensed it, so all his arrangements were ruined. If that's the case, then let's go look for Warlord now. The meatball he ate earlier has an aphrodisiac effect. He might be waiting for us to save him now. Yunjioga's eyes were sharp. He had already spotted Warlord in a state of arousal when he ran out naked. It was said that men were like wild beasts when they were aroused. It was hard to guarantee what they would do. "You stay here to fool others. Juga, come with me." Xianxia made a prompt decision and dragged Yunjioga away. "Hey." Yusha was not even dressed yet, so she could not catch up even if she wanted to. Yunjioga followed Xianxia out the window and smelled a faint musk lingering in the air. This was left behind by Warlord. "He's over there." Xianxia scanned the area and accurately determined Warlord's whereabouts. Yunjioga looked into the distance and realized that Xianxia was pointing at Pear Blossom Garden. Pear Blossom Garden still shone with a beautiful light, but it was no longer peaceful. Under a blooming pear blossom tree, the sounds of a woman's choking moans and a man's intense panting could be heard intermittently. When Yunjioga and Xianxia arrived, they saw the War King galloping around a palace maid's body with bloodshot eyes. The pear blossom tree shook violently as he slammed into it, and the pure white petals fell on his sweaty back. Yunjioga was about to rush forward to save him, but Xianxia pulled him back again. "What's done is done. Why don't we wait until he's done? Otherwise, it'll be troublesome if Warlord gets stuck there in shock." Yunjioga immediately imagined the scene of a stick stuck in his head. His face darkened, but he did not dare to rush forward. Fortunately, Warlord had already reached his limit. His back was as taut as a bow. After a low growl, he collapsed on top of the palace maid. Chapter 419. Zhishang waved his sleeve and purple mist wrapped around Warlord. He rolled to the side, revealing the palace maid he was pressing down on. Bao, Yunjioge was shocked. The one Warlord was humiliating was Chuxiu Palace's palace maid, Bao. Perhaps it was because of the chaotic situation that Warlord grabbed a random palace maid and messed with her in Pear Garden. Bao was unlucky. Right now Bao was a little pitiful. Her beautiful face was covered in tears, and her curvy body was covered in bruises. Her lower body was even worse. The gray-skinned man's body was stronger than a normal human's, but Warlord still messed with him. It was enough to show how much of a beast Warlord was after taking the medicine. Take her back first. Don't let Grey Emperor and Warlord know about this. Zhishang ordered Yunjioge as he waved his hand and shot out purple mist to wipe away all traces of Pear Garden. Yunjioge took out a cleansing talisman and put it on Bao. Then she wrapped her in her clothes and followed Zhishang back to Chuxiu Palace. How is it? Did you find Warlord? What happened to Bao? Wuxia had been hanging around Chuxiu Palace lately, so she knew Bao very well. Bao was caught by the mad Warlord. Yunjioge put Bao on the bed. Warlord raped her? Wuxia thought of something and lifted Bao's clothes to examine her body. What are you doing? Yunjioge looked at Wuxia angrily. She knew that Wuxia's soul was a man. This was too much. Didn't you say Grey Emperor gave Warlord an aphrodisiac pill? There should be something different if he let it out. Wuxia checked Bao and found nothing strange. She looked up and asked Yunjioge, when you saw her, what color was the liquid on her? Yunjioge saw how serious Wuxia was and couldn't help but scratch her face. She hesitantly said, I think it was gray. She was too shocked and didn't look closely. It was gray, Zhishang replied calmly. Back then the War King's condition was abnormal. Something was controlling his body. If he didn't let it out, his life would be in danger. That was why he stopped Yunjioge from going up. Yunjioge's eyes widened. Wuxia thought about it for a moment, then placed his hand on Bao's abdomen and examined it thoroughly. In the end he frowned and said, so it's this thing. What is it? When Yunjioge saw Wuxia and Zhishang talking as if they were talking in riddles, he was so anxious that he wanted to punch them. What the Grey-Face Emperor wants the most is a devilish embryo formed from demonic qi and baleful qi, Zhishang said expressionlessly. What does he want the demonic embryo for? Yunjioge blinked. The devilish embryo was a mixture of devilish qi and baleful qi. It was one of the evilest things in the world. It was absolutely not something that a golden core stage cultivator could cultivate. If he really managed to cultivate the demonic fetus, the entire world would be destroyed. Even the Golden Core Realm Grey-Face Emperor would be no exception. Who knows? Maybe he wants to use him as a puppet, or maybe he wants to use him as a vessel. Gya shrugged. This kind of thing was all too common in the Devil Clan. The devilish body was the best vessel for cultivating demonic techniques. Many demonic cultivators would come up with this method to cultivate faster. However, the success rate was less than 1 in a million. Can you get rid of the demonic qi in Bao's body? No matter what the Grey-Face Emperor wanted to do, Yunjioge had to stop this evil plan. This devilish qi is very corrosive. It has already entered deep into Bao's body. If I take it out now, she will die immediately. Wuxia shook his head. This was actually a very good opportunity. If he used it well, Bao might become a weapon against the Grey-Face Emperor. Are we just going to let the devilish embryo form in Bao's body? Yunjioge looked disapproving. This was no joke. Things went wrong, they might all die. If the devilish embryo could form so easily, it wouldn't be called the worst of all evils. Don't worry. When the time is right, I will personally get rid of the devilish qi in Bao's body. I guarantee it won't affect Bao's life. However, the most important thing now is to seal Bao's memory. We don't want her to give herself away and attract the Emperor's attention. Wuxia's cultivation was still sealed, so Zhishang was the only one who could do this. Zhishang extended his index finger and tapped Bao's forehead. A purple light shone on Bao's forehead. Her pained expression calmed down and her tightly clenched fists slowly relaxed. Wuxia put Bao in the ear chamber that the palace maids used to keep watch at night. She then looked up at Zhishang and asked, "How is Warlord? Don't tell me you didn't leave a demon eye to watch him? Do you think I'm you?" Zhishang looked at Wuxia with disdain and said, Warlord is still lying in Pear Garden. I think he will only wake up in the morning. Wake up in the morning. Yunjioge remembered that Warlord was still naked. If the palace maids and eunuchs came out at dawn, they would be seen naked. That's the effect I want. Zhishang narrowed his eyes. If he did not embarrass Warlord once, how would he know that he was in a difficult and dangerous situation? Good idea. Yunjioge thought of poor Bao Er. He was happy to see Warlord being tricked. The effects of the invisibility pill are about to wear off. Change back to your original identity. I think the Emperor won't do anything reckless for a while after what Warlord did. Yusha quickly smeared her skin with dust and changed back into the palace maid's clothes. She then went to the ear chamber to check on Bao Er's condition. Bao Er was leaning against the chair in the ear chamber in a daze. When she heard the commotion outside, she opened her eyes in a daze and looked around her surroundings. She remembered that the Emperor had asked Miss Yun to serve him in bed last night. She was waiting outside the door for the summons when she suddenly heard the palace collapse and the sound of water on fire. Since she was not allowed to go out at night, she did not dare to go out to check. She only walked around the courtyard of Chuxiu Palace to make sure that the door was locked. She couldn't remember what happened after that. Big sister Bao Er, why are you sleeping here? Yusha walked in with an act. When she saw Bao Er's dazed look, she quickly helped her up. I was worried that you would be frightened and not be able to sleep well at night, so I stayed here to watch over you. Although Bao Er still did not know what happened, she instinctively found an excuse for her actions. Big sister Bao Er is really attentive to the young lady. But it's almost dawn. You should go wash up quickly. Yusha said considerately. All right. Bao Er was already half awake. She was back to her usual nimble self. After washing up and changing her clothes at the fastest speed, she returned to the inner hall to prepare breakfast. Then she invited Yunjioge out. While Yunjioge was eating, he said to Bao Er, go out and find out what happened last night. Why is it so noisy? Did something happen in Pear Garden? He emphasized the words Pear Garden. Yunjioge was having breakfast. This servant will send someone to find out right now. Even if Yunjioge did not mention it, Bao Er would still go find out. This was something that she had to do as the head palace maid of Chuxiu Palace. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.